Ba-ba-da-da. This Hangout on Air is live, backed by popular demand. Well, not really backed by popular demand because last time I was on her radio show. Lorien Fenton. How do I?
Lorien
Lorien
Fenton, the
Lorien
one and
Fenton.
only.
I'm one of these guys. Me and pronunciation are not friends. So I'm like, and it's like, especially if it's not like if it's like a Joe, a Dave, a Bill, or Sam, I'm good to go. But if it's something like unusual, like slightly Gaelic, I'm off. I'll throw myself way off. So
Oh, God, you're cracking
Lorien,
me up. It's actually
Lorien Fenton.
Norwegian, and it came from The Hobbit. That's what's even funnier. I wasn't born Lorien. I was born Lori Ann. And by the time I
Uh-huh.
was 16 years old, we were all in high school together,
Uh-huh.
and my friends were
Talking
reading
to
The
be reading
Hobbit.
talk. Yeah, I know. I
Yeah,
know the
and
old
the next
story.
thing I know, my name has been changed. So there you go.
There
That's
you
what
go.
happened.
It was the mind control of J.R.R. Tolkien. Again, getting
It
us.
was. He
It
got right into
happens.
my head, man. What can I say?
Well, that's good. I mean, if you're gonna have anything stuck in your head, it might as well be Tolkien, right?
Oh
It's
yeah, my
worse things
God.
to get jammed up there.
I know. The fairy princesses and the warring and the armor and the swords and the rings and all that stuff.
The
Big juicy
magical language.
spiders and
Yeah, why not? You know what I mean? Better that than I feel bad for the generation that came after it. I think Tolkien was like it was Tolkien, and then it was George Lucas kind of knocked him out of the box a little bit with Star Wars as
yeah,
far as the default stoner youth mythology tropes. And
you're
then
right.
I think today it's probably Harry Potter,
Yes.
right?
And
All the guys like
Harry Potter's great, but Harry Potter doesn't have the evil twist that we had with Tolkien. Tolkien had that protagonist satanic, feel to it, the real evil stuff.
well, if you ask evangelical Christians, they'll tell you that that Harry Potter is evil as all get out. He's got
Well,
that
I know, but it does. You know what?
Nazi
It
S
just
on
it
his
seems too
forehead.
fluffy for me. It seems too, like it all works out in the end, and we know he's going to beat the evil wizard who touched him in the forehead, and all that. I mean, it does have a little bit of dark, but they don't introduce it in the same way that they did in the turn of the century when Tolkien was writing all this. We had world wars going on.
Yeah,
We had a lot of things going on in the world that nowadays our wars aren't quite as global. They're more regional, and they make them seem like they're a video game being played off in a faraway land. Whereas
yeah.
in reality, if you get on a plane, you can be there in 4 hours and be part of the action.
That should be their selling point. Hey,
Yeah,
get sick and tired of playing video games, kids? Get on a
yeah,
plane. 4 hours will have you in Baghdad in no time.
exactly.
Get
I mean,
shot.
it's totally
And
it's
if
a
you
different.
survive, you could grow up to be senator. You know what I mean?
Don't even. You know what? We're going to be laughing the whole show now because
I
everything we say to
I
each other,
know,
we
yeah,
we
and it's
crack each
terrible
other
because
up.
we. It's one thing if you're talking about the juxtaposition between or the contrast and compare between Harry Potter and J.R.R. Tolkien. It's another thing if you start laughing about war. Like,
I know,
yeah,
I
you
know.
get shot.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. See,
you know
here
what
we
I
are.
mean?
But my reality
Dark
is very
humor. You know what I mean?
exactly very dark humor. My reality is that we shouldn't have any wars, and I don't even know why they exist anymore. I mean, I've lived a little longer than you have, not much, but a little more. I will date myself. I am 61 years old. I was born in 1957, so I'm ancient. But I have seen when the Vietnam happened, and I was a teenager, a very slight teenager. I realized that I didn't realize, but I thought that was the last one I would have to deal with, right? I mean, we all thought that at that time. It was like, well, we got involved in a regional thing. It was between small countries in the middle of Asia, and it's not a world war, thank God. And now we're not going to have any more wars again, right? Okay.
Sure,
Well,
sure. The war to end
yeah,
all wars until the next
yeah.
war to end all
Flash
wars.
forward to the 90s, and I'm sitting in my couch watching some crazy football. I was watching football. It was Monday Night Football, and then they announced that we're going to war in Iraq, and I was like, "What? What? What?" All I could say to myself was, what? Doesn't anybody remember Vietnam? What? You know, and I kept thinking, how is this starting up again? A whole new cycle of war is beginning.
For
And
no
it
reason,
hasn't stopped.
right?
Yeah, for no reason.
Somewhere,
And I'm like,
yeah.
what? You know, and
just like Vietnam getting started by the Gulf of Tonkin incident, um, the Iraq conflict started over similar BS shenanigans. All
that's
those
right.
tales coming out of what was it? Iraq invaded Kuwait, right?
Kuwait.
That was the story, and they had that little girl in front of Congress, like. And
oh my God!
And it just turned out to be just a total friggin' LARP. It's like an absolute bold-faced lie.
It was, what was the movie? Dogs of War or War Dogs or whatever?
Wag the Dog.
Wag the Dog. Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh my
it's hysterical. It's based on the Iraq War. Actually, funny enough, it's kind of basically a documentary. It's pretty crazy. And you get photos, just like photos taken just weeks before the conflict of Donald Rumsfeld and Saddam Hussein being like, "Homie, what's up?" Like pounding.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to bring that up, man.
They were
old buddies 2 weeks before, and everything blows up.
They're doing the whole Uptown Shuffle, like knocking elbows, doing the twist around, bumping.
And they were both saying, "Yeah, where's that CIA paycheck, man? I really need it. I haven't gotten one for 2 weeks, man."
Absolutely. You know, I'm not standing at this desk for nothing. You know what I mean? And then they showed those photos of Donald Rumsfeld, hanging out with Saddam Hussein. Cut to after the first Iraq conflict for no good reason. After we're trying to hunt Saddam Hussein in Afghanistan because the thing about a CIA paycheck is that it's just basically a down payment till the time they come to get you to clean up the pieces, right?
Or they come to get you for Guantanamo's hotel suite.
There you go. Hey, listen, you know what I mean? They spent billions and billions and billions of dollars of putting all those cinder blocks together. They got to put someone brown in them, you know what I mean? Human rights violations don't just commit themselves, you know what I mean? It doesn't count unless someone's actually suffering.
Oh, exactly.
So all of a sudden they're like, we're going into Iraq too, and then the weapons of mass destruction, the whole freaking thing starts over again. It's like, guys, and what's so crazy about it is that if you think about the world today and all like the legitimate reasons, like all the horrible dictators that are actually really out there,
exactly.
And it's like, how it's not only that you would create all these lousy excuses to go into these stupid wars that we don't need to be into, but at the exact same time that innocent people are dying for no reason, innocent people could be dying for like somewhat of a reason.
For
you know what I mean?
Their home country or something, not just a drop of oil here and there, or a barrel of oil. Oh my God! Yeah, tell me about it.
Meanwhile, the United States of America is now the biggest producer of oil in the world.
I was going to get to that. Isn't that insanity? I sit here and I just go, how is this really happening?
And now here's the question. How is it that we're the biggest producers of oil now, but like a couple of years, like 20, 25, 30 years ago, we couldn't figure out that we were sitting on oil reserves before?
Oh, yeah. No, they knew about these oil reserves. I had a friend. This is a great story. Back in the 70s, I was running a big department store as an assistant manager. And I had a guy that came to me one night. He was a much older gentleman. He was in his 50s, and he went around with these engineering companies looking for oil reserves. That's what he did. And he came to me and he said, I have to quit my job because I'm going to, is it Iran, Iraq, somewhere, I can't remember, Dubai, or I don't know. He was going off to find oil wells for Standard Oil Company and British Petroleum. And I said, well, why are you going to the Middle East? Saudi Arabia. And I said, why are you going to Saudi Arabia for all this? He goes, well, we pretty much mapped out the whole United States. We have enough oil here to take care of us going into, the year 3000, or whatever. But we want to be sure we get it at a cheaper rate. And the Middle East is the best place to buy it low and sell high. And I said, really? He goes, yeah, that's what Standard Oil, BP, and all these guys want to do because it costs more to buy the oil in America. Because it's all owned by private families and private this or, small corporations or what have you. Back there, They could just steal it, right? Let's have a war and steal it.
Well,
oh, my God.
Before you know, we're going to have to go to war with Texas.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Well, listen, they got their own state guard, right? They're the only, you know what I mean?
Exactly. exactly. Well, I think we'd lose. I think it would be the Alamo in reverse all over again.
I don't know. I mean, well, let's pray that we never get to that point. You know what I mean? Like, but I
Well,
could.
now, weren't you surprised after the election that we didn't have rioting in the streets and all kinds of craziness going on? Because I was kind of thinking, wouldn't that be the way to end an election cycle?
Talk is cheap. Everyone talks about taking to the streets and riots. Happen every once in a while. But the thing is that if you want to talk about what's going on, it's like split the difference. Like nobody got exactly what they wanted, but everyone got enough to prevent people from rioting in the streets. Like, my fears is I don't think there'd be like mass rioting in the streets, but I thought if there was like a real blue wave where they took both House
and Senate,
House and Senate, that there'd be a couple of people being like, QAnon said it was going to happen. They're trying to take him out. Don't think so, Yankee. You know what I mean? Take to the streets. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Okay, Cletus, we're going to take the south side of the White House. You guys are going to take the right side. We're going to stand on ground. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Even little Washington say, and then if it was a total Republican blowout, just for that side, I think that there would have been plenty of brothers and sisters, at least in New York and LA, who would have gone a little bit crazy.
Oh, there would have been tons of marches. I mean, there would have been marches all weekend. It would have been the veterans and Democrats against Trump march, and I think they're planning a big march against his veterans parade this weekend. I'm not sure, but I heard rumor about this, so I don't know what's going on.
From now on, I'm not going to talk about anything until I actually see things on the big screen, and then even then, I'm going to be suspect about it, and maybe call every other thing a false flag just to cover my bases. That seems to be the skill set involved in being a conspiracy theorist and an alternative media personality these days.
Yeah. So how's that going for you, Mr. Alternative Media Reality Guy?
I figured that out. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start another channel where I'm just going to be straight QAnon, right? And I'll just cover my bases. On this channel, I'll just say things that are true. And on that channel, I'll just cover my ass and say things that are false. And then before you know it, that channel's just going to skyrocket. You know what I mean?
Everybody will be following you. You will be so famous for being the guy that plays both sides of the QAnon thing.
No, dirty little secret is what I want to do is I want to go out to 8chan Anonymous, and they got this whole Q thing going on. I just want to start another anonymous account and try and get Z in the game.
You know yeah. No, I like that.
Dianon, you know what I mean? It sounds like the bad guy from some like 1975 science fiction movie, right? Emperor's Dianon. It's come on the scene. Absolutely.
A Marvel comic hero is what you'll become. I like that.
There you go.
Yeah.
And knowing me, it would never take off. I'd have to wait for Q to show himself and drop dead. Or who knows what's going to happen? Who knows?
Well, the QAnon people, now they're a very interesting group. I'm not sure. Have we figured out who it is yet? Do we have any IP traces? Or
here's what's so crazy. Talk about a beast that will never die. When QAnon came out, I said to myself, and I said to the community at large, I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, you have an information source that's anonymous. You can't verify who it is. You can't verify if it's one person or a collective. You don't know if it's AI. So you can't verify anything about this anonymous source. And its claim to fame, what it's saying is you can trust me because I'm part of the deep state, but I'm a white hat. And it just so happens that I'm going to tell you everything a red-blooded, Republican, evangelical, straight patriot, is going to want to hear. A Second Amendment. Hillary Clinton is a baby eater. There's Satanists in the Democrats and in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Decadent LA. All this, like everything.
We didn't know that to begin with, right? Like,
but beyond that, it's like my whole thing is this: is that if you don't know who the source is, if it's an anonymous source, you have no idea what their agenda is.
That's right.
And it'd be one thing if they came out and showed you some documents, like the thing about Deep Throat or any anonymous source is that they're anonymous to the people at large, but there's someone who knows who they are, who can vet them to a degree and say, I have an insider inside Washington, D.C. I have an insider at, Steven Spielberg Studios. I have an insider here, there, everywhere. And therefore, they're anonymous to you because they don't want to be in trouble, but I'm telling you that I verified who they are. But this guy is like just this guy, gal, collective, whatever, is just totally straight down. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. So as QAnon was doing the QAnon thing, there were plenty of people on the scene who was calling BS on it. Dark Journalist was calling BS on it. Joseph Farrell was calling BS on it. I was calling BS on it. And, you know, there were plenty of people that were calling BS on it. To say nothing of, you know, like the Noam Chomskys of the world and all this other, you know, actual professionals. And most people outside of this world saw it exactly for what it is. But they have their conspiracy theories, idiocy, blinders on. So they're just like, are you kidding me? Like, whatever. But I knew what the problems I had on it from Jump Street. But it blew up like nobody's business. Well, at the age of Trump, right?
Right.
So what ends up happening is now at this point where we're having this conversation on 11/8/2018, it's already old news to people who care to educate themselves that QAnon has been identified as a LARP. They've identified the key hackers over at, or if you want to call them that, over at 4chan and 8chan that started it. There was a guy called Pamphlet. There was another guy called Microchip. Tracy Beans was intimately involved from Jump Street. People now, if they cared to read a researched article about the subject, could know and understand that QAnon is a total friggin' LARP. But you know what? People don't want to educate themselves. People just want to sit there and you say that, you know, by the way, this is now not just theory and speculation that it's a LARP, and it's not even we figured out who these guys are, but they don't want to admit it. They're giving interviews. They've given interviews and they've admitted who they are. They've shown their screen caps from there. And
I'm going to have them all on my radio show then, because I'll tell you how I found out about QAnon. I'm at my MUFON group. Okay. We just had a great meeting. Everybody's having dinner together. There's, 30 or 40 of us sitting there. And one of QAnon's biggest followers jumps up at the table and says, I just got a new QAnon posting. Now I'm sitting there going, what the heck is a QAnon thing? I don't know what it is. See, because CW, I have a life. I work 40 hours a week. I'm not like the rest of these people on the internet who spend, 23 hours and a half and sleep 30 minutes a night because they're glued to YouTube like if they're entranced into
don't knock
it.
my hobby, you know what I mean?
No, I know. I'm just saying. I even laugh at myself on my own radio show about the fact that I don't even care about my own radio show. It's like I never listen to my show because I don't have time. I'm putting on events. I'm wheeling and dealing with friends who want to do this and that, and I try to hook people up, and and I got a job. And it's like, where do you people find time to sit and worry about what QAnon says, right? Like Bashar. Like, I got friends who love Bashar, and I'm like going, this guy's a scam, but if it makes you feel good, go right ahead and spend your money. But then I also put a little caveat to it is, if you want to throw away some more money, I'm always welcome to take it.
Right. Well, I happen to like Bashar, but I don't have any affiliation with the notion or the belief that there's really an extra dimensional entity or alien. Like, I think he's talking from his with the stuff that Daryl Anka says is Bashar is fantastic. As far as I'm concerned. Having said that, if you want to, Lorien, I'll tell you, we can save this for later in the show. Okay. I could actually channel Bashar.
Oh, cool. I love it. I'd love you to channel Bashar for 2 minutes and have Bashar tell me what's going to happen in my future. I've been waiting.
No problem. We got to pay. You got to pay. You know what I mean?
I got to pay. See, that's the problem. Now, I'll tell you a great story about Bashar. Maybe I should save this for later, because I have a very good friend that was kind of like a Hollywood UFO conspiracy insider guy. He used to have these amazing parties, and he was friends with all these guys back in the day before they actually became something. And so I know a bit about Daryl Anka that nobody knows. So this is pretty funny. I mean, nothing against the guy. He's a great, he seems like a nice guy. If you're looking at channelers over the time, the last 50 years that we've been exposed to, Seth Speaks, and I can't remember all the other ones. You know what I'm talking about.
Jay-Z Night with Ramtha.
Jay-Z Night with Ramtha. Oh, yeah. God, how can I forget? I kind of blasted that one out of my consciousness, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't do channelers. I don't do any of that stuff. I absolutely refuse to do it. I think it's a very good friend of mine once said, you don't know where it's actually coming from. So you could be inviting in something not so good. So be careful.
Well,
You
at
know.
least if you're inviting something not so good, you would know that in essence, the metaphysics of it at least work. You know, the theory
Well,
in some
that's
people's
true.
mind is that you're just sitting there talking to the person being like, you know,
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
an imitation.
yeah.
I've always been fascinated by channeling and interested in channeling myself because I'm interested in spiritual practices. I'm interested in these spiritual
Yes,
practices
you
with people
are.
who
I've been
do
doing
these
my
things.
homework on you.
Uh-oh, watch out.
Yeah, I've been watching all your past episodes that I can do at work, between things. And at one point you said after
Weren't you
the
just talking about people spending their whole life on YouTube? Girlfriend, you just told
oh,
on yourself.
no, at work I get like 15-minute breaks or a half-hour break, and I can I go watch you because I'm studying you. You don't know this. I'm studying the
Uh-oh.
chanter, man. I'm like, and you told
I'm
on one
scared.
episode about how CW came about, and then you told about your spiritual practice, and then God, there's another episode where you talked about the drinking, and there were all these. I don't listen to all of them. I listen to snippets here and there, and it's good because I want to know who you are,
Well, thank
and you're like me. You get up on air and you're actually who you are.
you. Right.
Unlike some of these people we know that which we'll be talking about tonight,
We'll
that
be talking about
actually,
everybody.
yeah, they are not who they are, at
Right.
all, and it's scary. This is the thing about YouTube that scares the bejesus out of me. It's why I don't have a camera on my computer. It's why I don't have anything around here, because it's like, you know, are you being real, or are you putting on a persona? And this is the stuff that is molding the minds of the people watching you. So if you're not being in your truth, then what are you doing on YouTube? Is it all about the money? Usually it is 99.9% of the time. And I can tell
Absolutely.
it's not that way for you.
Oh
You know,
no, yeah, no. I mean, but we share that concern. I mean, like I was just talking about this the other day. This notion of like we need to be very careful because there's a whole bunch of people who look at YouTube. They want to get involved, and they just figure out what they think is going to be a possible angle. And there's plenty of people in
exactly.
this conspiracy theory community who they know all the things to cover. They know all the topics to say, and but you can tell that's just that they're just searching for those elusive hits. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and let's bring up the one that right now I'm kind of like, oh my God, is that Jordan Sather guy?
Oh, you want to talk about Jordan Sather?
Yeah,
I don't know if
I
it's. Do you
do.
know? Did you watch the video that I did with Unirock where we talked about? Did you know that Jordan Sather doxed Joe from the Carolinas?
No, I didn't. Wait, yeah, I saw the title the other day at work, or that one just came out, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Like,
this is breaking news.
okay, tell me about that because I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so I'll basically tell you the fact pattern. It's good because we want to make sure that it's exposed, as much as possible. Dark journalist was just talking about these doxing. I told you before that they doxed me as well.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
it's brilliant.
exactly.
But you know what I mean? Like, little did they know when they doxed me, they were like, well, from hell's black heart, we're going to strike down at CW Chanter and tell the world his real name, Benjamin Isaac Zavodnik. And I'm like, well, that's brilliant. But guess what? I told the world my name was Benjamin Isaac Zavodnik months ago. Oh my God, it was hysterical. But there was a Twitter account appears. A Twitter account appears that had been set up. This happened like November, whatever. Today's the 8th. This must have happened on like the 4th or the 5th. Honestly, this is breaking news. So a account is set up that has been started. I believe it had been started in either the tail end of October of 2018 or just at the front of November 2018. So a brand new account.
Okay,
Only following like a handful of people, maybe 10, 12 people, and only being followed by 2 or 3 by the time that I actually saw it. So here's how it goes down. This Twitter account called Thomas Crown, blah 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 blah, like a string of like rando names, like a total burner account, comes out with a dox on Joe from the Carolinas, and the dox is his office address, his office phone number. They at everybody that they knew had a problem with Corey Good and Gaia. So they added Patty Greer, they added Jordan Sather because they were obviously, we'll get to that point. They added Richard Dolan, Joseph Farrell, Walter Bosnick, everyone that and Joe himself, everyone that they knew was battling currently with Corey Goode. And basically they revealed his office address, his office phone number, pictures of him with his real name on it, a videotape of him. And here's the real kicker. Okay, so this guy is a mental health professional with a PhD who works with cancer patients. Many of them are dealing with end of life issues. So when they added his place of his work, the place where he works as well. So they really did a deep dive. Now here's where it gets crazy. So this deep docs comes out of this random burner account, right? Okay. It's a limited hangout. It's not going to be a big deal. Within 45 minutes of the original docs going up, the original thing being posted by this burner account, Jordan Sather, with a huge comment on it, retweets to his 66.8 thousand followers.
Oh no!
He then takes the information. He then takes the information and puts it onto Facebook.
Oh, what a scumbag!
What a total fucking scumbag!
How can you do that to people? I mean, I don't even get that.
You know how do you do? That's a very good question. Talk about and you know Joe's coverage. You know how Joe does, and you know Joe's work. He is not a killer. He is not out here like really burning bridges. He is not out here really destroying people.
Yeah.
And if you want to know the real kicker, check this out. Here's where it gets really interesting. When Teresa Neros was on Joe from the Carolinas channel right after her I'm Breaking Out of the Cult live stream she did.
Yes.
Jordan Sather came into the live chat, and to prevent people from messing with him, Joe from the Carolinas instantly gave him a wrench, made him a moderator for the YouTube chat so that people couldn't block him out and whatever.
Really?
And what was
Joe very nice of him.
Talk about, well, Joe's a nice guy. Right?
Yeah.
Joe's a nice guy.
Joe's not a crazy person. Let's just put it that way.
Right? And so Jordan repeats this docs. And so then everyone immediately is like, I'm all over. The night that he did it, me and Uni Rocco on my channel were like, dude, and we put the pieces together. We looked at the timeline of everything. It's like there's no way. We figured out that there was no way because this happened on the day of the midterm elections. So you're telling me that Jordan Sather, who's got 66.8 thousand followers, saw a random tweet, right, from a random account, a tiny little account, and was able to pull that one out of the million notifications he gets on not an hourly. If he's got 66.8 thousand followers, he's getting retweets, he's getting likes on his tweets, he's getting commentary, he's getting added. So his notifications are going to be like 100, 250, like a minute.
Right.
So how the heck within 45 minutes of this original docs going out, does he pick it up, see it for what it is, analyze it, and then come to the moral and ethical conclusion to retweet it with a detailed commentary? Within 45 minutes, he would have had to find it, look at it, look at the docs, and then formulated a response to it. Bullshit. He's on the inner circle with Corey Goode and Roger Ramsour, who are leading the doxing campaign. I said it. You want to sue me, Roger? You want to sue me, Corey?
How about we sue
these nuts? Honestly, sue these nuts. These guys are total jokes. Sue us. Sue me for slander or libel for suggesting that you're the ones that are doxing people, because we'll sue you right back. We'll sue you right back, and then we'll do the digital forensic evidence to find out who's got the IP addresses of those Twitter accounts and who actually did the dox.
And now, why hasn't anybody gone to Twitter and got they're kicked off for doing this kind of stuff? It's illegal.
It's illegal. Well, don't worry, because I have a feeling that the federales are already looking into this thing. Don't worry. I have a feeling that the federal authorities are already taking a little look at what's going on there. And when they pop the hood on that trunk over there with Corey Goode's organization, with David Wilcox and everything, they're going to have a lot to think and look at, right? David Wilcox, who remember when David Wilcox did that, there was that GoFundMe for Pete Peterson's house.
That's right.
The FBI are trying to knock it down. They're out here with with bulldozers.
I know
And
Pete Peterson's story. I'm sorry to say, sadly, that Pete is not all with us mentally.
okay.
And he was having a lot of physical issues. He had some problems. This was back in 2012 when I was dealing with him, or 11 or 10 or whatever. And the point was, back then he had a lot of health problems. He didn't have any money. He couldn't remember things. He was starting to have signs of problems. And I feel bad for the dude, but and I had friends that were over there helping him try to clean up his house and get things moved around and what have you. The guy's had no work. He's not physically perfect right now. And I can see all this happening to him.
Right.
He's been one step away from being thrown out of his house for 10 years, a decade. And so, and what bothers me about this whole thing, now I'm starting to rant, is that Wilcox knows this. He knows his history. He knows the truth. Why did he play that game of raising money for him when he knew that this has been going on forever?
Well, where it gets interesting, like the line of reasoning that we were just following, is that starting a GoFundMe to pay for a guy's mortgage, but telling the world that the GoFundMe is to save decades worth of critical primary source information on the deep state, the organizations, because Pete Peterson, the legacy is right. He's the guy that's like 33 levels above top secret, above the president.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, well, maybe not, right? Maybe he's just a guy gone to a hotel room with Corey Good, with David Wilcock and Kerry Cassidy and Bill Ryan, and told them everything that they wanted to hear, so that he could. I think
that Pete had some very interesting information about free energy and about some projects that were going on. He did work for the Department of Defense. If I remember correctly, Bill did have him vetted. You got to remember something. When Bill was working with Kerry, Bill did all the vetting. And Bill did find out things. He had people in place that he could go to find out these guys were legit and actually did something in the past. You couldn't tell what they were doing currently because most of them have been kicked out of the Department of Defense or, whatever, or they were whistleblowers or what have you. Right. Okay. So, and this is just conjecture, folks. I don't know for sure because I haven't talked to Bill for a while, but we're reconnecting now. My theory is that Kerry doesn't do as good of a job of vetting people as Bill did. And
she doesn't do any job of vetting people.
I'm being kind because she's a friend, okay?
You're being beyond. Well, she's going to love you for appearing on my channel. She thinks that me and Kevin Moore are the world's biggest,
Well, I'm not happy with Kevin myself. I
love Kevin.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we can agree to disagree on that one.
Let's stay away from that. Let's agree to stay away from Mark Richards and his prison.
Yeah, let's do that. Together. I'm really good friends with Joey, so it's really hard on me,
So we won't go there.
Yeah, we won't go there.
We'll triggered. We'll stay away from
that.
That's
the one. We'll put a little fence around that one, and we just won't go near it. And we can play in the whole sandbox.
I was going to say, considering the number of douchebags that we have in common that we can go after, there's no need. Yeah. We can certainly table things for other days.
Exactly. I mean, I got plenty of people in this group, and I keep Mark Richards in my prayers. Let's just put it that way. And I adore Joanne. So
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So Pete Peterson, because the thing is that, as we were saying, is that when David Wilcock started that so here's the story on the GoFundMe from what I understand. Maybe you can fill in any blanks. He goes online and he tells the world, oh my God, the FBI are trying to take away Pete Peterson's house. It's full of these primary source documents that are very important to us in our struggle against the cabal. Right?
Okay.
The whole David Wilcock sandwich, right? It's got primary sources against the cabal, deep state resources, forbidden knowledge. You know what I mean? It's got Toth's original manuscript for the Emerald Tablets. It's got everything in there, right? And this is supposed to be that Pete Peterson was going to leave this all to David Wilcox. And it goes to show you, even doing a charity GoFundMe for another individual, David Wilcock can't help but make it all about himself, right? He kept on being like, and this is my legacy. This is supposed to be left to me. He was going to leave this stuff to me. So it's like, we got to save it for you, whatever. Anyway, so he tells this whole wackadoo story, but the FBI are intentionally trying to destroy it. They've got bulldozers all around the place. And immediately, everyone already knew about Wilcox. So there were already people like on day one who were posting onto the GoFundMe, and they're like, I live 2 blocks away from this house. I went there. there are no bulldozers. There's no FBI.
Exactly.
Whatever. And then people were even putting up the fact that, like, look, here's the document. Like, this, when they do when a house gets repossessed, this happens all the time to people. Unfortunately, the bank has to go to the courts.
That's
and
right.
The bank says, look, here, the guy that hasn't paid his mortgage in 6 months, 5 years, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
We're repossessing. They give the sheriff goes over, knocks on the guy's door, and says, "Look, you got 48 hours to leave." According to the sheriff, they went over there, and the guy wasn't even living there anymore. He had gone to an apartment or some sort of assisted living thing, or I don't know what the situation was.
Exactly. That was why I told you he wasn't in good health. I wasn't even sure he was staying at that house anymore. And if there is a bunch of stuff in there that's like the golden tablets of Ra, I don't know. Why didn't someone just go and get him?
Get him. Right. So here's the other. So then here's the other thing. So then David Wilcox says all this stuff to the world about why we need to save this property. The GoFundMe generates over $60,000.
Great.
Right?
Well, that should have helped.
But wait, here's where it gets interesting. Who took the woman that started the GoFundMe? Gave the entire $60,000 plus to one individual, and they didn't give it to Pete Peterson.
What?
Do you know who got that money?
No, I have no idea who got it.
David Wilcox.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
No.
Are you? That's illegal.
That's called wire fraud. That's called wire fraud. So when the FBI come looking at Corey Goode and start asking questions about this whole organization, I guarantee you, Sean David Morton's already in jail. God bless his soul.
I know. Sean's
Winston
a very good friend of mine.
Yeah, Winston Trout's. You know what I love? Do you catch the Sean David Morton updates from prison on Wind Spirit Radio?
No, I don't, because it's right before my show and I'm at work and I have to hightail it home to get on my show at 5. And
Sean David Morton is like, I love him. I do love him. But his gift for hyperbole is amazing.
I know.
He calls it the Wolf Spirit Radio. And he's like, oh my God, what can I tell you about the big house? 5 people were murdered in the yard today. And I got in front of the guards. I was like, are you going to do nothing? Are we animals to you? You're just going to let us all kill each other? And then the next day he's like, today was 15 innocent people. And as I cradled that young Latino boy in my arms, he said to me, he goes, Sean, you talk to spirits. Yes, I feel like I'm going. And I said, that's okay. Let it go. Go to source. You know what I mean?
I have so many stories about Sean.
Tell them all.
Oh God, no! I just love him to pieces.
He's lovable.
I told Sean, I said, in spite of yourself, you're going to survive all this because he's his own worst enemy.
True story. Okay, true story. Because you know what I mean. I'll just say that it goes to show you that Winston Trout's going to jail too. It is what it is. And it's the sovereign citizen stuff. I had an opportunity to talk to Sean David Morton briefly before he went in. I'm an attorney, so we had a little discussion. And I said to him, he was telling me the whole situation. I said to him, well, look, this is what happens when people get in trouble with the sovereign citizen stuff. And he goes, oh, I'm not into that sovereign citizen stuff. All I did was, he starts telling like all the sovereign citizen stuff. And I'm like, dude, you know what I mean? Like, what are you telling me?
I know. I've been trying to, trust me, I'm really into the sovereign stuff. If you go to my website.
It's okay if you want to study it as a philosophy, but if you think of the American jurisprudence system, give a gosh darn about your consent. You know what I mean? You're out of your mind. And they came into the room, and I had her in my hands, a bloody weapon in my hand. And they said, "We're going to arrest you for murder 1." And I looked at them and I said, "No, you're not. You don't have consent. I don't consent to your jurisdiction. Murder is not illegal in my mind, dude." You know what I mean? So excuse me while I go over to my pot plant, pick off a couple of hot buds and smoke them right in front of your face, pig. And all you're going to have to do is just sit there and groove on it because there's nothing you can do because I don't consent. I'm a free man on the land. You know what I mean? I'm not driving this car. I'm not traveling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I'm really a private individual. Like they make their own license plates and stuff. All it says is you need to have a license plate. I have a license plate. Yeah, it says Choo Bug 5009, and you made it in shop class. That doesn't count.
I
You know
know.
what I
I
mean?
know. Hey, my business partner, one of my business partners is one of the top guys in the country on this stuff. And if you go to my website, you will see.
Get a new business partner.
No, no, actually, it's working out really well because
For now. Oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah. No,
when your
we
business
don't do
partner
the
tells you
sovereign. I don't do any of that stuff with him.
good,
That's not what I'm in
good.
business with him with. I'm in business with
Okay.
him on something completely different.
Well, be
So
careful because you're gonna turn around after anything goes wrong. You're gonna like have to sue him on contract. He's like, "I'll see you at sea," because unless you can
yeah,
the
no, no,
American law of the United States
he's
of Navy.
they're all
Stop it.
fine.
I'm
They're all
teasing.
fine. Yeah, both of my partners are actually into this stuff, both of them. But they're
Why not?
you'll
Right?
go to my website, lorienfenton.com, go to the right-hand column and check out all their stuff. They've got sovereign filing, sovereign citizenship. They got
Oh
all this stuff.
God.
It's
No, don't
wackadoodle,
do
man.
that, ladies and gentlemen. Do
Yeah,
that for only
yeah.
comedy
Well,
purposes
you
only.
guys, you're,
Bring
yeah,
him on. Have see
exactly.
if he'll go on my show. I'll explain to him in detail why everything he's doing is crazy, never gonna work.
Well, now here's the interesting part because I was
Okay.
talking to them about Sean. We've been going over and over about Sean for the last year, ever since he got well, the first time they had got him was off the ship when he hit the dock in San Diego or LA and they were
Sean
waiting
David
for him.
Morton.
Yeah, yeah. I called my buddy and I said, "Well, they're after him." And he goes, "Oh, he shouldn't have done what he did." And I'm going, "But you're a sovereign guy." He goes, "Yeah, but what he did was so stupid." He goes, "You don't do the stupid stuff. You do
Oh,
the right stuff." And I'm going, "Well, what's the difference between the stupid stuff and the right stuff?" So, even in their own community, my point to this is even in their own community, they can't agree on anything.
well, no, that's the thing. That's how the whole scam works. Okay, all that happens is this: you charge people $350 for the e-course for the friggin' Wizards of the Way course, where you're going to tell people that they can write their own postage stamps with like a friggin' Sharpie and some duct tape, right? All this junk, and then what
Yeah.
happens when the person actually goes to jail or loses their house? You just turn around and go, wait, you didn't sign? You signed the first contract, the second contract, and the third contract as an idiot imbecile with no power under the law, but you only signed your actual first and last name on the fourth contract? Oh, well, there you go. Like a
Yeah,
plumber, it's
exactly.
always
See,
like, oh,
that's my
here's your problem. You know what I
yeah,
mean? With your
here's your
filing.
problem. You didn't follow my
You
explicit
dotted your
magical
eyes?
spell
Oh, you never got
instructions.
the eyes. Oh, that's where
Yeah.
you screwed up, sister.
But I love my partners. They're actually doing really well in their community with this stuff, and God bless them.
No,
I
they're
love
not.
them for
Listen,
it.
Winston Shrout. Listen, when Winston Shrout and Sean David Morton are the topics of the conversation, and they're cold kicking it live in the federal,
I know.
in the federal big house in the friggin' pokey. Why don't you tell your partners, hey, by the way, maybe you want to check out how the winds of change are changing? It's all
Yeah.
theoretical. Like, I understand. It's like anarchism. Like, I've got friends who are anarchists, and I've got a lot of sympathy for the anarchist political persuasion.
Okay.
And in theory, that's fine. But in the continental United States of America, you can advocate for a stateless solution all you want to, as long as you understand logically, for your own safety and for the safety of the people around you, that it's not a stateless solution. You live within the confines of a state and you're subject to its laws and jurisdictions.
That's right.
No matter how you feel about it. So it's like, you don't want to pay your taxes? Okay, don't pay your taxes. But when they come get you for tax evasion, don't act like, oh man, I'm getting jammed up over here. Sure you are. But you should have seen this coming.
That's
You know what
right.
I mean? Like,
That's
just
right.
like, if medical marijuana is legal in Colorado and California, but you live in Nebraska and it's not legal there, shut your mouth. Go to Colorado or California, or shut your mouth.
That's
Because
what
it
I
is
tell
what it
people all
is.
the time. I know.
Do you ever see those videos online of people being pulled over by the cops and they turn on their iPhone to demonstrate that they know all the skills and that they're going to not go to jail because they don't consent?
No, I don't. See, I don't watch any of this stuff.
Sister. Oh, you don't. Why are you wasting your time watching CW Chant on YouTube. When you
Oh,
could be
because you're
watching
much more
Sovereign
entertaining.
That you think that because you haven't seen the Sovereign Citizens getting busted by the police videos.
Oh, I guess I gotta
Ne-
watch those. Okay, I will.
You know what's her name? There was a gal out of Canada. Her name is like Joan of Gaia or something.
Oh, I
And
have no idea who this person is, and I'm kind of probably glad
yeah.
I don't.
So here's how the Sovereign Citizen game pulled over by the cop works. So the cop pulls them over for something simple, like they got a tail light out, or it's an expired registration or whatever. So they get pulled over. The Sovereign Citizen immediately turns on their cell phone camera to record the whole event. To both protect themselves, but really you always see it starts off like they think that they're going to demonstrate to the world that they took the Hasakim Bey, not consenting to judicial authority course 103, and they're going to beat the system, right? So the cop like friendly pulls them over and says, "Okay, license and registration, please." And the person doesn't even like opens the window like a crack and says, "I'm actually free to go right now because I don't consent to your jurisdiction over me. I'm not in the course of transit or transportation. I have no people in the car who have paid me to be a livery driver." And the cop goes,
"Oh my god!"
Yeah,
so they're playing the whole thing about how that they're not part of the transportation laws.
Exactly.
Yeah, gotcha.
At which point the cop goes license and registration. The guy gives him more sovereign citizen bullshit. And at this point, the cop will start saying to them, like, if you don't roll down this window and give me your license and registration, I'm going to pull you out of this car. And the person starts saying, no, you're not. You're not going to put your hands on me because I don't consent. And at this point, the cops have lost their cool. They've called over 3 partners. They crack out the window. They grab the person. And as they're grabbing the person, like a good future lawsuit plaintiff, the person immediately starts going, you're hurting me. You're hurting me. Why are you assaulting me? I do not consent to this assault. I do not consent. Then again, pepper sprayed. Like, I don't consent to being pepper sprayed. It's ridiculous. You're going to have a fun time looking up those videos because there are hundreds of them.
Hundreds of them. Oh my God. I don't understand. I mean, when I get pulled over by somebody, I what I do is I look at the sky and I go, please, dear God, not today. I can't afford it.
The next thing that I do, CW Chantry runs his mouth all the time on YouTube, acting like a real jerk to this guy, that guy, the other guy. The cop pulls me over. I roll down the window. I do the whole thing. I put my hands out so they can see my hands. And I'm Mr. like, you're just doing your job, officer. How can I help you? Here's my license and registration and insurance.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? How you doing? No. What was I doing? I really don't know what I was doing. I'm so sorry. I try to be an attentive driver. I try to be good. You want to, what I mean? And I kiss ass. I kiss ass. I kiss ass. And I consent. I'm just like, you know what I mean?
Obviously you've had that night in jail like I've had.
I've never had no night in jail, sister. You
haven't? Oh
my God. No, because I kiss ass. I don't spend no nights in jail. Have I ever spent a night in jail? I've been booked, but I never spent the night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have I even? No. I've been like, I've been questioned, you know what I mean? I've been by the authorities, but I've never been like in the big house. I've never been like,
I went to county. Did I go to county jail? Yeah, I went to county jail one evening, but I'll tell you the story. Want to hear it?
What you saying like you were visiting? I went to county jail one evening, like I could have gone to the park. Look at some dogs. I said, "Hey, let me see my municipal tax dollars at work. Let me go visit."
I was a very wild person when I was younger, and very wild. I'm not going to go into all the details, but
yes, you are.
There were bets in my family whether I was going to end up in prison or dead or whatever by the time I was 18 years old. Okay. And my father bet that I'd be in prison. My uncle bet I'd be dead. My cousins all said she'll be fine. They won, by the way. So I don't know what the pot was, but it was a 3-year-long bet. When I was about 7 or maybe 18, I don't remember. I was 17 or 18. A good friend of mine was a cat burglar, and he used to steal from very wealthy people, very expensive, beautiful jewelry. That was his favorite thing. and being his best friend, and I really liked the guy a lot. You know, it was one of those infatuation things. And he was doing the. Do you remember the guy that was married, Wagner? Remember, It Takes a Thief or whatever that show was on TV, where he used to be a cat burglar and go steal jewelry and
Robert Wagner.
Robert Wagner, yeah, he was the thief.
Why do I know this? Yeah.
Anyhow, he used to say, "Oh, that's what I do. I'm like that," you know. And he had me all convinced he was the coolest things in sliced bread. So, yeah, he was about 19 or 20. One night, he pulls up at my house in a stolen car, and he's got all this stuff in the back seat. And he goes, like, "Let's go for a ride." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, why not?" Right? So so I'm in the car with him. We're going down the freeway. It's about 2:00 in the morning in Portland, Oregon. And we pass a big car accident, and there are like 500 cops there. And he's like, "Oh no." And I said, "What?" I said, "What's going on?" Because I was so stupid back then. I was so naive and so stupid that I never asked him where the car came from. I just got so the next thing I know, we're leading a high-speed chase through the city of Portland, Oregon, and we're going up into the hills, and he's screaming at me, "Oh my God, they can't catch me." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "What's going on?" He goes, "I got all the stolen goods in the back." And he goes, "Here," he goes, "take this jewelry and swallow it." And I'm like, "What?" I said, "I'm not going to." And we're yelling at each other in the car because now I'm realizing I'm screwed. Okay. And he's like, "Oh my God, oh my God." And so we go up, and he goes, "I'm going to go into the hills." I go, "No, don't go into the hills." And he takes his exit. And if you go up into the hills of Portland, Oregon, into the very wealthy neighborhood up there around Forest Park, the roads are all twisty, turny, and they all connect with each other. It's like a bunch of snakes in a pile, right? And we know those roads really well. We're hoping the cops don't. Did turn out that way.
Why would the cops know?
Yeah, right. Well, we were so dumb we thought they didn't. Okay. So anyhow, we're driving along, and all of a sudden we hit an intersection, and the transmission just drops out of the car. I mean, it just falls out of the car, and we're dead stopped in the middle of this intersection up in the hills. And he goes, "Gotta run." And I'm like, "Okay." Next thing I know, he jumps out of the car over the hood and jumps over an embankment that's about 150-foot drop and drops out of sight. Okay. The next thing I know, the car is hit on 3 sides by cop cars chasing us. And I'm sitting there in the car all alone. The cops are all pissed as hell because they just wrecked their car and the car that was stolen. And I'm just sitting there, and then the cop opens the door and he goes, "Well, do you want to say anything?" And I said, "Not really."
You should have been like, "I'm a kidnap victim."
Oh God.
Yeah, I was out here on a date, and the guy just took off.
Oh God. Well, at the time, I was hanging out with a pretty fast crowd. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. And they didn't know which one it was. They didn't know if it was the guy that I'm telling you about or the other 2 guys that were his best friends that were doing the same kind of thing. Okay. So they had me in there in the jail, sitting there grilling me all night long. They called my dad and mom and said, "Your daughter's underage. You better come down here and tell her to tell us what's going on," and blah, blah, blah. My dad said, "No, leave her in jail. We don't care." And he hung up the phone.
What did you do? What kind of prison? I'm not going to ask, but that's great. So, oh my God.
So what they really wanted to know is they never charged me with anything. They, because I told them I got in the car. I didn't know, I didn't. I was too stupid to know.
Oh my God.
And he goes, "You didn't ask?" I said, "Why would I ask? He was driving different cars all the time. I didn't know."
Why would I ask? He's driving different cars all the time. Unless you go to the car dealership, sweetheart, you better ask. Like he's not showing up in a different car all the time.
Well, I'm 17. What can I say?
I say that, but there were plenty of times I've been like, "Yeah, get in that car, sure, no problem, let's go."
So I'm sitting there all night long, and finally, after about 6 hours of harassing me, who is it? Is it so and so, so and so, or so and so? And I kept saying, gee, I don't know. I didn't recognize. They were getting really mad. Oh, 5 hours later, I finally said, you know what? It isn't these two guys, because they were too stupid to be able to even consider running from you. They would have just stopped the car, and they go, you're right. So they knew who it was. But that was my night in the, whatever. Anyhow, it was pretty funny.
County lockup. There you go.
Yeah, the county lockup.
And what's so crazy, like, who would think that, like, X number of years later, you'd be telling that story on this thing called YouTube, on a thing called the internet?
I know. And at the time it happened, I was like, oh, I felt so bad. I felt like I betrayed him, But he snuck into my house.
Edge of 17,
and he's very good looking, I gotta say. He snuck.
You didn't have to say that part, sister.
Yeah.
The night in county lockup, not giving up the goods. We assumed that he was a pretty hot looking dude.
He was very nice. And he came sneaking up to my house about 2 weeks later. He knew that they were watching the house. Nice. And they were watching the house all the time. As a matter of fact, I'd get up in the morning and go to work, and I'd see him sitting out there watching the house. So I'd bring him coffee, and sometimes I'd bring him donuts. And and after about 2 weeks, I've just said, I don't think he's ever going to show up here again. Do you? And the guy said, yeah, you're probably right. And so they stopped looking at the house after about, 14, 16 days. And then about 3 days after they stopped watching the house, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear tap, 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 tap on my window, and it's him. And he crawls in the window, and I told him the whole story. And he's like, I said, oh, please forgive me for telling them who you were. And he's like, oh, baby, no problems,
Yeah, no problems. I just let that 17-year-old
I don't care.
No problems.
Yeah. So
somehow it was all forgiven. Imagine that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and he was a really good friend for years and years, but he ended up in the penitentiary, and he got out, and I heard a rumor that he went back in again because he'd been in so long. The world had changed so much that he couldn't handle it out here.
I heard that happens. I heard that happens to some people. That's like Charlie Manson, right? Yeah. Charlie Manson was all like, I was raised inside the penitentiary. I kept on going back because whatever. You know what I mean?
Let's talk about Manson for a minute. I know some crazy stuff about Manson. And have you ever heard about a guy named John Cameron, who's a detective out of Montana?
Well, it's one of those names. Like, it's probably ringing all sorts of bells. And maybe because I know the guy you're talking about, maybe because the name John Cameron is probably like in movies and like all over the Yellow Pages.
Yeah, it is. Well, then what I'd like your audience to do, if there's anybody listening to this at a later date, which I'm sure they will.
We have 113 viewers.
We do? Oh,
yeah.
God, 113 viewers. I'm so glad you're here.
Do you know about seeing the live chat?
No, I don't know anything about it. I try not. You're not going to believe this. Everybody, you're not going to believe this. I had 2 computer companies. I was very involved in all the computer scene. Both husbands were computer geeks, the whole bit. And I am a computer geek. I can program. I can do all kinds of stuff, but I don't have anything on social media. I don't have anything on my computer. I try to stay away from all of this stuff because I'm smart enough, I hope, to understand that I don't want my perceptions on life controlled by what people are trolling around saying all over the place, Oh,
so yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, so I stay away from it all. And people go, how can you do that? I go, because I don't care enough about the insanity of other people's trolling. And, and that's what Facebook has turned into. I go on Facebook and all I get is crap from everybody. I'm like, why do I even bother? What's the point? And they call them friends. And I told people, I said, when I was in the hospital dying, not one of those Facebook people were there giving me $10,000 as my friend to make sure I didn't lose my house. None of them are your friends. If you think they are, you're an idiot.
Or how about this? So we're in conspiracy theory land, right? You and me, we live here. And we're talking to all sorts of people, and they're like, yeah, the NSA is spying on everything you do, and social media is designed to control you, and all these electrical companies and this, that, the other thing, and sovereign citizen this, and conspiracy theory that, and all this stuff, and three-letter agencies, alphabet soup, and whatever, the Illuminati and the cabal, and they're going to try and take you down for doing, or kill you for doing this amazing work. And if you want to hear more about it, follow me on Facebook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're all on Facebook.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, Alex Jones is on Facebook. David Icke, if I'm not mistaken, is like all these cats, Alfred Lambo, and a lot of them, like, for the while, I was having trouble getting my YouTube channel to grow. And I was like, why is that? And I was like, it's because everyone's on Facebook, and I wasn't. I didn't want to be there because of all this BS.
Well,
and
it's the truth. It's the truth. You're right.
So the way I got my first videos out there is I dropped them, and I had a private Facebook thing for a while, but not connected to CW Chant. It was just under May, and I was like, I finally broke, and I was like, I got to get someone to see my videos. So I went over to Randy Kramer's page, and I used to drop them over there. I used to just be like, there's this dude, CW Chanter, I don't know, check it out. And then I'd be like, and then people would be like, of course, everyone in Randy Kramer's fan page would be like, this sucks. Like, who's this guy? Like, why the heck would you show this here? But meanwhile, that got me the first couple of hits of people watching my video. And then I thought to myself, I really screwed up, because I'm like, Randy Kramer's a fairly smart, like, regardless of his like ding dong stories or whatever, he is strikes me as a fairly intelligent dude. And I'm like, he's gonna put it together. He's gonna figure it out. He's gonna go through his like history and be like,
Did he ever contact you about?
No. Well, because Randy Kramer's one of these guys. He's in the game for 6 months. He drops out for a year and a half. He's in the game for 6 months.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
he's one of the guys I'm reserving judgment for until I actually meet him and actually have a nice conversation with him about what he actually really did in the military. I want to know, the bottom line.
I could really tell you.
Yeah.
Well, so here's what I've put together. Because when Randy Kramer first came, I've been doing this since 2015. And even earlier than 2015, I was researching this stuff, trying to figure out all these stories. So Randy Kramer first came out to that gal with the alien love bite, Eva Longoria.
Oh, Eva. Yeah, I've known Eva for years. Eva Lorgen.
Eva Lorgen.
It's Eva Lorgen, actually.
Eva Lorgen, yeah. And so his first revelations was with her, where she was working with him to reclaim his like lost memories or whatever. And when he was on there, I think he was going under the acronym Z, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Then he reached out to where he really started to blow up a little. So he reached out to Dr. Michael Salla.
Right.
By that point, he was calling himself Captain K. Right.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. But I was starting to figure out already that you could backtrack him to this Z character. So I was looking there, and I was looking at everything, and I was doing all these things. Then he finally came, and it seems that his real name is Randy Kramer. So looking at things that I can't tell you, because I don't like. There's people that like save dossiers. They've got files on their computer of all the research. Sure. I don't do that. So I can just tell you what I know and I saw. And what I basically know and saw was that at one point he wanted to join the Navy. I think, it was the Navy, I believe. And so he went to sign up, and he was there for like a week and a half, or like even maybe just a couple of days, and he had a freak out. And so he got dishonorably discharged. And then he went back home to live with his folks, and that's when he started working with Eve and with Michael Salla, where he started to recover all these memories of why did he freak out at the thing, and it was because it triggered all these memories of the life on Mars and all this stuff,
So he's a 20 and back guy too?
I don't know if he's an actual 20. I think he is. But I can't remember if that was crucial to the story. But I believe that it was. And I know that he was talking about things like he was doing like all these like meditations and seeing like matrix-like numbers. Then like he was hacking the code that he was seeing in his mind to figure out to unlock the memories and stuff. I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. And so there's, but then, he's one of the guys that Alfred Lambert Weber freaked out on and threw under the bus. I remember it was like 2016, and Alfred Lambert Weber was sick of everybody, and he was throwing everyone under the bus, Kevin Annett, Michael Tallinger, like everyone and their mother. was being turned on by by Alfred Lambert Weber, and he did it to
Kramer.
Randy Kramer. He did a whole Facebook post. I think he since deleted it, but he basically was like, I can no longer trust Randy. And none of these people, even when they throw the people under the bus, they never throw the story under the bus. They just throw the individual, but hold on to all the crazy cockamamie stories. So it was like, I feel bad for Randy Kramer, and I can't, trust his dialogue today, even though I know that he's probably did regain all these memories and stuff. He's under some sort of hypnotic MK Ultra mind control, and he's drinking. He accused him of drinking, and he said that Alfred Lambert Weber apparently was contacted by one of Randy Kramer's roommates, who was like, "Yeah, he doesn't get out of the bed. He just sits in there and drinks and whatever." And I can relate. I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I was like, I felt bad for the dude. So I was like, damn. But Alfred Lambert Weber put all that stuff out there, like a gossipy queen, like a Lorien Fenton or C.W. Chanter. He just put all that dirty laundry out there.
Shame on
all
him.
That dirty laundry just out there.
Well, like, that's the thing. I try not to do the dirty laundry unless these people are actual scumbags. And I know they're a scumbag, so I don't mind doing it because they deserve it. There's a big difference between saying the guy's a drunk and he's in bed. Well, we don't know why he's doing what he's doing, and maybe that isn't even the truth. We don't know because it's the roommate,
Right. But we did get confirmation. The live chat is helping me out here that he did get age regressed.
Well, we got age regressed. Now that's interesting because part of my story involves that as well, which is very interesting. So you don't know my story. I have a crazy ass story that rivals Kramer and all these guys.
Do you want to tell it?
I could at some point.
I don't want to put you under the. I offer that just to be like, if you want to, but like, I don't. It's not a demand or anything. Like, I don't know, like how I'd feel. Like, this
is the reason I got involved with all of this is because in 2011 I'm at the Awaken Aware conference that Carrie and Bill put on in Orange County. And I had a thought while I was driving down there that I thought to myself, whatever happened to Duncan O'Finian? I'm such a,
oh my God,
such a naive idiot I am. And I'm thinking, I used to like listening to him on Art Bell with Corso and those guys when they were on the Art Bell show. And I thought, the super soldiers get such a bad rap. Maybe somebody should put on a conference for them. That's what I'm thinking, right? So I'm such an idiot. I drive down to LA. I meet up with my friend. We're at the event, and I told Aaron McCullum I was thinking about putting on a conference.
Mermaid Man.
Yes, exactly.
The guy that destroyed Project Camelot.
Yeah.
The guy that broke it. Yeah. And whatever happened to him?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
He just dropped off the face of the planet.
Meanwhile, he's like an ad executive, probably somewhere out in friggin' Fresno, just like living another life. Just
exactly. Yeah, I know. I'm telling you. Anyhow, so stupid me. I tell these people, well, yeah, maybe we should do something like this and expose all this stuff, right? And this was early in the infancy of these people coming out. Well, that weekend I met Max Spears, James Rink, Duncan O'Finian, Aaron McCullum. I met all these guys, and it was just a thought in my head. And the next thing I know, I'm putting on this conference, and I put it on in San Rafael, California, for one day in 2012. And, yeah, it was wild.
Just the notion of Max Spears being and Aaron McCullum, the Mermaid Man, chilling out in San Rafael, California.
Oh, Aaron didn't show up. Here's the kicker on this. When I went to put this on, Duncan said he'd wanted to be part of it, and then he turned on me within, a month. He goes, you can't have Aaron there. And I said, why not? I said, because I want everybody to get along, kumbaya singing, the whole bit, right? Little did I know that these guys are all like programmed to self-destruct and kill each other, right? I'm so idiotic. I had no idea what landmines I was stepping on. And because I just put on conferences for a career for years and years and years. I didn't know people were this nutty in this whole thing, right? So I got a quick education really fast that half of them are mentally ill, half are truly mind controlled. The other half really do have what's going on with them going on, but not in the way they believe it happened, because that's part of the programming. Okay. See, this is the whole kicker. When I had my awakening that Saturday night, that weekend, they time regressed me. Max was older than me. He's actually 20 years younger than me. I had a whole vision. I had all kinds of stuff happening. And then when they were all done doing what they did to me, however they did it, and I don't know to this day, they basically said, we can see through your eyes. We can control what you do. We can, do whatever we want to you. So don't ever believe anything. So basically, I got whoever the white hats are in this whole community gave me a whole lot of whoop ass that weekend and said, don't trust anything anybody does in this community at all until you've actually dig down in their story and understand what their mind control is all about. Because 85% of them are making shit up. The other 15% are real, and the 15% that are real are under severe mind control. And it comes from many angles and many ways. And you got to understand what their programming is all about. So that's what I got out of that. So I was so mad that they did that to me that I put on 2 more of these events. And I was trying to expose the real truth behind the mind control issue, which is really the basis of it. And here's how I explain it to a layman. If you watch the Denzel version of The Manchurian Candidate, if you watch that in the very beginning of the movie, there's belly dancers and colors and lights and craziness going on, and it's all really nutty. And then at the very end of the movie, they show you the room where they're doing that mind control on him. And all it is a white room, and he's got electrodes hooked up to his head, and they've created everything that he thinks he saw or lived in the past, whatever. Okay, so that's what I tell people. You have no idea how far they have come with how they can control you through mind control in this country. It is such a deep, deep, deep kept secret within the military and a lot of these Department of Defense guys, and it goes on and on. I'm just telling you, folks, I know this for a fact. Right. And it's a big problem. And that's like, Aaron Alexis, remember the guy who shot up the Naval Yard? And he carved in the butt of the gun ELF for the electronic frequency control or whatever. The guy had called a friend of mine 2 weeks before out here in California named Derek Robinson, who runs a targeted individuals group. And he said to Derek, he goes, I'm getting messages in my head to kill people. They're controlling me. I know it because I was part of their programming. I'm a computer programmer, and I was working within this project. He goes, I was only a little tiny piece of it, and I don't know what the other people were doing, but I know it stems from what I created. I helped create. Just like Robert Duncan. Robert Duncan, if you saw him in the mind control episode of the Jesse Ventura conspiracy theory TV show.
Okay, yes, yeah.
Robert came forward on that show and said, hey, all I know is that heterodyning is real. And if they want to put thoughts in your head, if they want to tap into your frequency, it's a done deal. They can do it easily nowadays. And Robert's been a good friend of mine since my first conference. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is let people know that a lot of these guys, maybe it's real for them. Maybe they actually did do what, I'm not saying they didn't, but I'm saying probably 15% of it's mind control, and the other 75% is stuff that was put there for them to tell us because it's a psyops.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I'm gonna ask you respectfully. We know we live in a world where, now I'll concede and I'll say at the outset that I'm aware that it's been reported that there is technology like the voice to God transmissions, like
voice to skull communication,
communications, and various things, and we all know that they're experimenting with extreme low frequency crowd control devices and stuff. So absolutely, we know that there's technology out there to influence, and there's things like post hypnotic suggestion and hypnagogic drugs. So we know that I'm not saying that that it's impossible. So we live in a world where we know that stuff is possible. Okay, so and I can see that as the first thing variable that can happen to a human mind. We also know that there could be organic problems in a person's mind, like actual physical defects in the brain or tumors or whatever, and stuff. And then we also know that people could suffer from severe mental disorders like bipolar syndrome or whatever.
Yep.
So, and then we also know that people could drive themselves crazy with diet or poor diet or also drugs.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like,
Yep.
methamphetamine or whatever the case may be. So we have this stuff that we have. We live in a world where there's all these things that can go wrong with a person's mind in all ways that they can be suggestible or think that they're being suggested. And we also know that there is a level of hypnotic suggestibility that's included in Hollywood movies,
Oh,
whether
you bet. And
whether
TV
it's the
and
drink of
everything
Coke
else.
or whether it's the activation of sexual stimulus to get you to be tuned into the screen or whatever the case may be. So how do we know that it's not that it's whatever? How do we attribute a percentage of what could be mind control, what could be not mind control, when it could be just entirely possible that these individuals are all just kind of they could all just have mental health problems.
Right,
And we
right.
also know we live in a world of compulsive liars. And we also know we live in a world where the CIA, the FBI, or the NSA, or any sort of state policing organization could want to infiltrate these scenes, like with the famous
Oh,
stories about
absolutely.
what's his
I
face,
agree.
Richard Doty, driving that poor guy insane.
Yeah, poor Benowitz. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know. You bring up a very valid point, and I bring that up too. That's the first thing I say at the conferences. I say to everybody, I said, the people gracing our stage this weekend, they may be suffering from all part or some of what's going on. I said, I don't know the answers, but I can tell you this. They're going to tell you their stories as they believe they happened to them. And if they can find answers to help them come to the conclusion whether they're mentally ill, they got a problem, they're lying, or they're being under mind control, or they're just crazy, they want those answers too. And that's the truth. And you know what? The ones that I believe the most are the ones who flat out say something's wrong and I don't know what it is. And they don't come to you and they say, I'm a super soldier who killed 45 people. I was at 20 and back. Those are the ones I totally write off as something is really going on here that's not quite right. If you're truly something that the government's using for some reason, like the poor guy who shot up the naval yard, you're going to people like my buddy Derek and you're saying, help me, help me. They're screwing with me. Something's going on. I don't know what it is. I need your help. You're freaking out, because
yeah,
it's really happening to you. Okay. It
yeah. I
is.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like, even if a person is suffering from paranoid schizophrenia and they're seeing things that aren't there, they're seeing
Right.
things, they're
Exactly.
experiencing it.
And so the problem Derek had when he called him is he didn't know, because the first thing you got to do with people like that is you got to say, are you seeing a therapist? Have you been diagnosed with any mental problems? Do you think you might have a mental problem? Are you willing to find out if you do? And if they're willing to find out if they do, I can tell you right now, most of them don't. And that's only a very small percentage. Like, maybe 5% will say, yeah, please find out if I'm crazy. I want to know. you know, they're like, please let it be that, don't let it be that somebody's got control of my mind. Ooh, nice
No, I just I
chest hair.
reacted because unfortunately because the cat knocked over a Snoopy lamp. Oh no, I knew that was going to happen eventually.
Oh, Snoopy got
Uh,
knocked over by the cat.
Snoopy got knocked over by the cat.
No, it wasn't Lucy with the football, huh?
No, ironically, fitting in, through the lamp, whatever. Oh, it's crazy,
Yeah,
but it happens.
it happens.
It
Yeah. Hi, kitty,
happens.
kitty.
This
Well,
too shall
anyhow,
pass, right? All
yes.
possessions are fleeting.
They are. And so my point to all this is, yes, I'm the crazy lady who brought out all these super soldiers. I'm the one who did that. Yes, you can all blame me. But in doing so, I have found out that there's much more dark, evil, crazy stuff going on in this country that I could even ever imagine. I was very naive back then. I had just gotten into the community. I just come out to the community. I was not doing radio yet. I mean, there was a lot of things going on, and I will admit that I made some big mistakes. I really did. I should not have given some people the stage that I did, and there were others that I should have that I didn't. And I feel bad about that now, but there's nothing I can do about it except for say, folks, I think some of these guys are the real deal. but it's a very small percentage of the people that are actually out there. And I believe people like Corey Good are working for some agency somewhere. They're part of a program, whether they are a willing participant or not. You don't start a cult in this community without help. Okay. Jim Jones started a cult. He had lots of help from the CIA. Nobody knows, and nobody talks about that. The Hare Krishnas had CIA influence.
I was
Everybody
involved in the Hare Krishna.
had it. I love the Hare Krishnas. I think they're
What's
great.
not to love?
My fondest memory is getting off a plane in the 70s and having them dancing around the airports. I love those guys.
There you go.
So,
Cool
but my
haircuts,
point to all
nice
this
dresses.
is, if you
Yeah.
study your cults from the past and their stories and what's happened to these people, you understand they all had help. Everybody had help from some nefarious agency. Nowadays, you don't need that kind of help because it's not physical anymore. It's all on the internet and it's all a social media campaign. So you can get help from the NSA, the CIA, and what have you, and you never have to meet anybody. Really.
Now, how do they help? Do they help by just skewing the numbers, making sure that the right people
they
get
do all
your
kinds
links?
of crazy stuff. They'll intervene on your social media, make you look like God. They'll say you gave 5 cancer kids your left kidney, and you could be sitting there and you could be Corey Good and go, oh yeah, I guess I did do that because I'm the one, I'm Enoch of the Bible.
Hey, listen.
They got them mind controlled. They're so crazy. They don't know what's going on half the time. And this Roger Ramsey guy or whatever his name is, Roger Ramjet, that's what I call him. This guy is a big problem. Because,
well, listen, before you talk about a real problem, let me tell you this about the guy. I put him on blast because I had when Joe got doxxed, I went off and I basically, had reached out to the guy, and the guy is always like gaslighting me. Like a couple of days, like I had Groovy Bean on, I had Yvonne on my show where she was talking about her problems with these people gaslighting her, and I sent him a message on Skype, and I was like, Roger, I'm like, dude, I'm like, if you want to talk about the current things that are going on, this debate, please tell me, and I'll have you on, or whatever the case may be. And he wrote back, dude, I don't even know what's going on. I stay out of this drama. He goes, I haven't even worked with Corey for a long time. And this was like 2 days after he had made a mutual Facebook post with Corey Good defending the trademarks. And I'm like, you're going to like how the F
what?
are you going to, how are you going to send me a Skype message saying that you haven't worked with the guy in a long time? And you were just giving public statements with him. And this is days before they were supposed to have that masquerade ball. I'm like, how are you going to how are you going to type that thinking that CW Chandler is so stupid that that's going to be an acceptable response to me? You know what I mean? It's just, and then when this whole thing happened with doxing, I said it to him again. You know what I mean? Where I knew things were getting heated with the actual authorities. And I reached out to him and I was like, dude, call off the dogs of war. If you have anything to do with this, or who's involved in this, could you please put an end to it before someone really gets in trouble? And he was like, basically like, F you. Like, he just like wrote me this whole like scree. And the day after I did that, where I put him on blast, I called him out. The day after, all of a sudden I got doxxed.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And so now, so people are triangulating and figuring out that here's basically the story. And I'm hearing we've got multiple sources who are all spilling the beans. And what it looks like is that people are being charged with, people tell the underlings, you go out and get dirt on this guy, you go out and get dirt on this guy. These individuals, these who want to be part of the inner circle, then go out and do the usual stuff, the paying the $25 to wefindyu.com or whatever the case may be, to get all the public access documents. And then they come back like dutiful little master, with the information. And then Corey looks at it and is like, yeah, that's cool, that's copacetic. And then they order the hit. And that's why Jordan Sather would have known that the hit was going out, that the dox was going out on Joe, so that he could get the information right away. They would have told Jordan. They would have said, like, okay, we're gonna have this account, release it, and then you just wait, and then you take it, and then retweet
absolutely.
it.
Yeah. Now, here's a question for you. Do you know if these guys actually all live near each other and meet physically, or are they all doing this on the internet?
It's hard to say because it was under my understanding that we knew that David Wilcock and Corey Good were within physical locations because Corey relocated to Colorado and so did
Right.
David, ostensibly to be closer to Gaia TV. I don't know what the deal with Roger is. I think that he was in like, I don't want to say because I don't want to get involved in any accusations that I did anything, but he
Right.
wasn't there. But I don't know because I know he travels a lot. Like, and then
Yeah.
so I don't know what's going on or where it all meets up or where it's all going down. I just don't appreciate Roger telling me like if you're gonna tell me to f off, just tell me to f off. Like, don't give me a line. Like a PR line that I'm going to be able to burn through in like 3 seconds. I'm just going to look
Right.
at it and be like, how can you tell me like days before you're scheduled to have a party with this dude where his friggin' graphic novel is going to be released and your movie is going to be released simultaneously? How are you going to sit there and tell me, oh, that you hardly work with the guy anymore? Like,
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
I
So,
know. I know.
um,
This guy, he's bothered me since the beginning. Corey, Corey's Corey. I think he's the useful idiot in this case.
so
What can
tell
I
us about
say?
the, well, you could tell
Well,
us how you think he's a useful
everybody
idiot.
knows that the CIA, when they run an op, they always have two or three useful idiots that do their bidding without realizing they're doing it. And I think Corey's just one of those guys. I think that Roger probably has more of the alphabet agency connections than Corey ever could. Because I don't think Corey, honestly, I'm sorry, folks, sorry, Corey. I don't think you have enough read in or smarts to keep your mouth shut at the right time. I mean, you could barely speak on the first time I ever saw him do anything.
Mm.
He has to be coached, he has to be led, he has to be told what to say. The guy just doesn't have an original thought, you know. So I knew there was somebody behind him all this time. And I thought it was at least two or three people coaching him and getting him up to the point where he could be the cult leader, the
Right.
guy out front.
The visionary.
Yeah, the visionary. Yeah, visions of don't even get me started. Uranus. I
Yeah.
could think of a lot of things. Anyhow.
So listen. But backtracking a little because it's an interesting point that I don't want to get lost in the shuffle before we move on to Corey Good and Jordan and all those guys. Talking about the conferences that you did with the Super Soldiers, and I know that there was, maybe you know about this, that there was a Super Soldier conference that Miles Johnston came out to, and this was the one where Sarah Rachel Adams was there with Max, and
This is the
also
one that was Henderson 2013 at the Fiesta Hotel. I
okay,
did put that on. Yes, I did. I am the
okay,
culprit.
and then there was this like story where James Rink was telling the world that, and that everyone was reporting that there was this like fantastical thing with like, I know here's what I think. I think that James Casbolt, has got a series of issues going on. I don't think he's mind controlled. I think he's just kind of a guy. But I know this is his trick. Like you're walking with him, and all of a sudden he grabs you and is like, "Watch out!" And it's like he gets you, like does something to physically bring you into a physical manifestation of his pantomime, of his play. And the story that I heard was that he was sharing a room with James Rink and Max Spears, and then he did something where he was like telling people the next day that he transformed into like a huge monster and knocked out of the hotel room, and then everyone was kidnapped and put into a truck outside.
Oh God. God.
Experimented on before they were returned back to the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, well, it's not that way. Actually, what happened, and I don't like to talk about this because people don't want to believe me, and that's fine. Casbolt made that into what it wasn't, but there was a psyops that happened to us, and there was a military operation that did happen to us at that evening, and there were quite a few people involved in it. And I didn't want to believe it, CW. I went on radio for 6 months after this, and I told the world that these guys were crazy, nothing ever happened, and blah, 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 blah. And I went through the whole thing, and I just kept poo-pooing it and saying nothing happened. And it turns out that more than likely, there's a good chance that something did happen. And I'm trying to find some military deep sources, which haven't been able to come up with anything yet, but one of them says that it's a good possibility from what we've described to them happened, that it did happen. Okay. And here's what happened. And this is way beyond what anybody, they all told these fantastical tales. It was much simpler than that. These guys, there was a group of 3 or 4 military guys that got into our rooms, and they drugged us with a very short acting scopolamine type of drug. And there were 14 or 13 of us. I don't remember the whole list and who they were. And well, when I get through with this, I'm going to make another qualifier to this. Okay.
Okay.
And we were all taken downstairs to the loading dock, and there were 2 Ryder trucks that were outfitted like a surgical truck for military purposes. If you go online, you can find these trucks. They're called mobile clinics or whatever, that the military uses all the time for all kinds of things. They use them in battle. They use them for going from base to base. They use them a lot, and they usually have 1, 2, or 3 chairs in them. Apparently the ones we were taken into had either 2 and 3 or 3 and 3. No one knows, because we've had 4 people hypnotically regress to find out what happened that evening, because they didn't even know anything happened. So they were the perfect ones to have regress, because we just said, look, get a regression, see if anything comes up for you. And we didn't tell them what was going on. We didn't tell them what happened. And they all 4 came back with, oh my God, I had no idea I was part of this whole thing. And it turns out that it was a military style operation. There are a bunch of us that they apparently follow. And I don't know what follow means, because my guy wouldn't tell me what it meant. He says, basically, some of you are being followed because of your UFO connection. Some are being followed because they got radio talk show hosts and they gab too much, and that was probably me. And then there's other people being followed because they have a huge internet presence, and that was probably Carrie Cassidy. And, I don't know, but he just gave a parameter of reasons that they decided to do this op was because we were all in one place at the same time, and it never happened before. Okay. So it was kind of interesting. And I'm like, okay, so this really happened. And apparently when we sat down in the chairs and were led to the chairs, they did different things to each one of us. A few of us have implants by the military that they track us with. This is like targeted individual stuff. I don't know.
Right.
And they were checking on that. And they said to one of the girls who had been regressed that didn't know anything happened, she came back to me later and she said, Lorien, the weirdest thing, they said to me, oh, don't worry, because she was asking them a question while it was happening, like, why am I here? What's going on? Because when you're under that kind of drug, it's a short-acting memory loss drug that you will comply and do anything they tell you to do. I don't know if you know much about scopolamine.
But I know a little bit, yeah.
It's like you could go out and drain your bank account and not even remember. It's the date rape drug, but not quite as heavy, so you're not knocked out. Okay. So she's asking this lady that's looming over her on the chair, that's got army fatigues on, by the way, or military fatigues, and says, why are you doing this? And she goes, oh, don't you know this is your yearly checkup? So now this is very interesting, because that means that these guys have been following this certain group of people for a very long time for various reasons. I don't know what. And, and I got to say, the one woman who does remember it all, we were going off of her recall, and then we had 4 other people regress that said, yes, it happened. So I'm just saying, I don't know if 4 people can make this all up. We went to different therapists all over the United States, and I did not tell them that each one was getting it done. I've tried to do this as clandestinely and as far away from each other so we couldn't compare stories and all this craziness. Okay. So my guess is now I'm saying 80% it probably happened. 20% is saying, I don't know, maybe it was all made up by everybody. And then the rest of me says, why in the hell would they even bother?
Okay, so let me just understand that the evidentiary support for it happening comes from regress memory sessions. There's been
Exactly.
no, there's no physical evidence. There's no security
We don't
cameras from
have,
the Holiday Inn.
no, the only thing I have is I've got where the hotel charged me for the broken, there were a bunch of broken, the latches that go across the doors.
Right.
A bunch of them were broken into these rooms.
And is it the allegation is that James Caswell broke those?
The allegation is that Casbolt and several other guys
Yeah.
in
Like
military
like
outfits did
like
this.
here's a
Yes.
suggestion. Casbolt and Max Spears got drunk, and Casbolt is a confabulator and a manipulator, and he got Max Spears and him to and James Rink to go and start doing this. Because by the time you guys went
Well,
to the
maybe.
regressions, because by the time you admittedly, right, by the time you guys went to the regressions, even though you all went independently, James Casbolt had already been telling people what had happened. Really?
Yeah, he told some crazy ass story that
Yeah.
no one believed
I don't
it. I
know.
mean,
You,
yeah, it was like,
I
what?
just, yeah. Because here's the thing. Let me ask you a question. Okay, you're the
Oh,
military.
yeah, by the way, it wasn't
Sure.
just him he didn't tell that story until weeks after the event, okay? What had happened was the woman who told me that she remembered this whole thing happening came to me the next day,
Who is
and
that?
I can't tell because
Was it
she's
Sarah
asked me.
Rachel Adams?
No, no. Long story short, she didn't really have a whole lot to do with the conference, but
Okay.
she remembered something happening, and she was like, she told me the whole thing because she has some weird recall memory that she's very good at this, and she goes, I don't even believe it myself, but I want you to know what I think happened last night. Now, I told her she was crazy, and I said, oh, I'm sure this is nothing. The next day after that, another woman at the conference came to me and said, something weird happened to me the other night. I don't know what it is, but I got bruises all over my body because apparently something, she goes, I remember fighting with some guys or something. And I said, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I think you're crazy. Okay. I swear to God, I did this. Everybody's reporting stuff to me. And I was like, oh, nothing happened. You guys are all nuts. Well, then 2 weeks later on James Rinks's website, the story comes out, and my phone and my email are flooded with, you better go check this out because this is crazy stuff. And so then I started thinking, well, I wonder what those women were telling me. I wonder if it's true. And then I read it and I went, oh my God, none of this happened. So then I thought the whole thing was a big hoax. Okay. So I go about my life. And then 6 months later, I get a phone call from one of these women. And she goes, Lorien, I've been having real problems. I finally had to go to a therapist and I got regressed. And lo and behold, something did happen, but it isn't anything like what Casbolt said. It was so mundane. It was basically you're downstairs, you get in the truck, you go back onto the thing, you go up the elevator, and you're back in your room 2 hours later, you know? And they did a couple of, tests on her to see if their chip was working and, basically said, okay, you're done. Bye. And it was done. It was no big deal, but enough that, something did happen. I believe. I'm not sure, and I can't say it did. So that's why I don't talk about it because,
Right.
it's
I
all
understand.
craziness. But
Yeah.
the 4 women that got their rooms broken into and had the regression were from all different parts of the United States. They are older women. It had nothing to do with the gang, what I call the James Rink, Max Spear, Sarah, Haley, that the younger crowd of super soldiers. What
Right.
I call them is the pack. And this was people that had nothing to do with this. And one of them is um, I'm not going to say who she
Yeah.
is,
Okay.
but
That's fine.
a really prominent lady in her field. And for her to come at me 6 months later and say, something's wrong here, I started listening. But it took
Okay.
her doing that for me to even pay attention. Now, and I'm going to tell everybody, I don't know if it happened, but I have a good feeling it might have now. If you'd asked me 6 months after, the 6 months after the event, I would have told you they're all crazy, they're nuts, nothing happened. Okay. So I'm leaving it at that. Casbolt is you're right. There is something really wrong with the dude. Sorry to say. Um
Yeah.
I know quite a bit about him that I'm not going to talk about because he's made me his arch enemy. And one of the reasons that he is banned from the United States is because of his antics towards me and 99% towards his wife at the time.
Right,
And
right.
I think you know about all that, don't
I
you?
do, I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he freaked out on her and started sending her all these obscene messages and put photos of her all over the place and started to harass her father and stuff, and ended up getting
Yes,
thrown in jail for
absolutely.
it.
What they aren't telling you is that one of those nights, they were living near me. Haley and Casbolt were living near me near San Francisco, and
And they have a child, right?
yeah, they do. A lovely little boy. I love him to pieces. Just I miss him.
Yeah.
But you guys, there. I'm going to tell you something that happened one night with James Casbolt
Okay.
that I've never told anybody, and this goes to show you that the guy, he does have a heart there somewhere, and he is, something is truly wrong with him. I was sitting with him on the couch. We were playing with his child, and we were getting ready to have dinner together. I think Haley was cooking dinner, and he looked at me and he said, Lorien? And I said, yeah, James, what's up? And he goes, I can't remember 7 years of my life. And I said, he goes, it's so sad. I just can't remember 7 years of my life. And I said, James, if the government really is doing what they're doing to you and they are messing with you the way they are, that's 7 years that you can say that you don't know what happened. And you're probably very happy you don't. So just be grateful
Right.
that if they were using you, if there is anything going on, just be grateful those 7 years are not in your memory. And he was very thankful for that, because I got to tell you guys, there was that night in 2011, when I had that incident happen to me that made me so mad I was going to put on every mind control super soldier summit I could for the rest of my life, because I was so mad at the government for throwing crap in my head.
Mm.
I I ran into a woman that night and I told her about something that happened to me. And she looked at me dead in the eye and she said, Lorien, maybe you don't want to know. And what it did for me, CW, is it gave me the freedom not to buy into their control of me. In other words, most of the people that are mind controlled, that think they're super soldiers, that do whatever they do in this community, God bless them, tell their stories, whether they're true or not, whatever. If they're being used by somebody else to get that story out there, their problem is they always want to know, why me? Who can help me? How can I get out of this? What can I do to change it? And they're always looking for a way out. And the only reason they're looking for a way out is because they accepted it as the truth for them to live. When that woman said to me, maybe you don't want to know, I realized in that moment that if I don't buy into any of this and I sit on the outside, always watching it from my perspective, who I am as a human, they'll never be able to control me. They'll never be able to do anything to me. They'll never be able to do whatever. I will never end up like a crazy basket case running around saying I'm Mary Magdalene, you know? And that's the problem. And that's what happens to a lot of these people. Now, I'm not saying they're all mind controlled. I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying they're super soldiers. I'm not saying they're not. I just am saying whoever's out there and they accept their fate, that this is what's happened to them through whether it's programming or mental illness or what have you, then they're stuck there and there's nothing we can do to help them. They're never going to change their story. They're always going to be screaming that they're the injured party, they're the victim, they're this, they're that. They'll threaten to kill people. They'll get on social media and become trolls. I don't know what they're going to do. And they'll seek fame and fortune, or they'll seek help forever. But they will never accept the fact that all they have to do is not buy into the bullshit and be themselves. And that's the bottom line here. You know who C.W. Chanter is. I know who Lorien Fenton is. If you know that, you don't buy into the crap and you don't become a pawn in their game. And that's what I keep telling all these people, And if they're really whistleblowers like Robert Duncan, He knows that. He knows darn well. It's the first thing he and I ever talked about when we got together was the only reason these people get any traction or whatever is because they got these fantastical stories that they bought into, and they have to spew it all over the internet, and people want to believe it. They want to believe it. And so you're sitting there going, I got amazing stories. I'm a very psychic person. I've had some crazy stuff happen to me. I manifested a rabbit in our driveway when I was 7 years old. How many other people, do that? But you know what?
That everyone does. Rabbit and 7.
Yeah.
That's like the thing, right? That's
Oh,
what we
really?
do.
Did you do that? Oh, cool.
Sure, I manifest all sorts of stuff.
But see, the point is, I don't tell anybody about it. I don't care because it doesn't define who I am.
Right.
And I don't go running around doing this. Anyhow, I don't know where we got off on a tangent here, but
well, no, it's what. Let me ask you this. Here's what I know. Here's what I think. So we have. I just try and know and understand that it's very hard to figure out in all the possible explanations how to zero in and how people zero in on the one explanation that they end up accepting. Like people could be a compulsive liar, they could have a mental health problem, they could be on drugs, they could be being messed with for all sorts of different reasons, they could be an experiment, they could be COINTELPRO. So it's like, how do you come to the conclusion of what a person actually is or what's actually going down?
The problem nowadays is we can't figure it out. It takes a lot of work to figure it out. Do you have 3 years of your life to sit with somebody on the phone every day and try to figure out if this guy's telling the truth, if he's not, if he's whatever? I've got 3 guys right now that I have worked with since 2011. One of them's name is Sam. I think he's actually going through what he says he's going through. I think that he might have some kind of voice to skull going on with this guy. I believe that they've really messed with him, and the reason I believe it is because he has not ever sought fame and fortune. He's barely talked to anybody about it but me. He has gone to a therapist to see if he's crazy. He's actually committed himself to a mental hospital for a month just to make sure that it wasn't him, and went on the drugs and everything to see if it would stop, to see if he was like hallucinating stuff, and it didn't.
But to get on the drugs, he would have had to have a diagnosis, right?
Yeah, apparently they called him manic depressive or whatever when he checked himself in.
Maybe that's no crime.
Hey, that's fine. Be manic depressive, whatever. He put himself there on purpose for I think it was a 2-week hold. I don't know what it was, to see if he could get the voices to stop. Okay. I thought that was really smart of him, actually. I mean, it did give him a manic depressive diagnosis for the rest of his life, but it proved to him that it isn't, it's real, and I think that some of these people are having voice to skull communication. I believe it is a program. I think it's real. Robert Duncan says it's real. I mean, he doesn't know how they're doing it, where they're doing it, and why they're doing it, but they are doing it, and he can verify that. And you talk to any of the remote viewers back from the old SRI days, they tell me, Lorien, you know what? They're doing stuff that'll blow your mind. That's all they'll tell me. They can't tell me anything else. But when they look me dead in the eye and I tell them stories about these people, they go, "Oh my God." He goes, "Yeah, that's amazing." And then they'll look at me and they're going, they're doing stuff that would blow your mind. And they're looking at me like, they wish they could tell me what they knew. Okay. So I know there's something going on, guys. You can't throw out the baby with the bathwater in the mind control minefield. And here's another thing. I think I was going to try to tell you a little about Manson and James Cameron.
Right. Yeah.
I want everybody to visit. It's called, now I can't remember it. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'll think of it by the time we get done with the show. But anyhow, this Cameron guy did a whole bunch of research into the Zodiac Killer. And while he was doing his research into the Zodiac, and he's an ex-detective out of Montana, coldcasecameron.com, coldcasecameron.com. That's the website. I want everybody to visit it if you can. It's all about the Zodiac Killer. But while he was doing the research on the Zodiac Killer, he came across the fact that Charles Manson and the guy that he believes is a Zodiac Killer were sharing the same prison cell in Deerfield, Montana prison. And they all know that, well, it's been reported and released with FOIA documents that the CIA was running a mind control, MK Ultra psyops out of that prison, and Manson and the Zodiac Killer were part of it. It was a couple years after they had gotten Kaczynski at Harvard.
Right.
Okay.
Now talk about synchronicities. We know that Whitey Bulger just got killed in prison
Yes.
right after he got transferred to the House of Detention or whatever, and he was not only an FBI informant, I believe, he was also an MK Ultra participant. He talks about it all the time that he was in an LSD prison experiment.
Exactly.
And it's an odd person to be involved in an LSD prison experiment because his brother was one of the longest serving state senators in Massachusetts or something.
Yeah, Connecticut, I think. But hey, what do I know?
Right.
Maryland, I don't know.
No, it was definitely Boston because that was like Whitey Bulger's beat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. It was Massachusetts. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So what I'm telling people is, everybody wants to poo-poo these guys like, they didn't go to Mars, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. I'm just saying, let them tell their stories, because in the end, I think we're going to find out that this MK Ultra program, the mind control programs they're doing now, the NSA CIA programs, which are quite different in their outcomes, they're looking to create Manchurian candidates, super soldiers, all this stuff. You guys don't always close your mind around these guys and just write them off as crazy, because I take little bits and pieces from every one of them, and I'm starting to be able to put together a much larger puzzle that people aren't seeing.
Whitey Bulger was buried today.
Oh,
and we're having this conversation and blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's
so crazy.
Yeah,
they're gonna disappear me tonight. They're gonna take me to a U-Haul truck and put an implant in my noggin.
Well, here's the kicker on
I'll
that
come
whole
back
thing.
And I'll be like, now that I think about it, Corey Good makes a lot of sense. I mean, Blue Avians. It sounds so crazy, but something so crazy would be necessary to bring people to their senses. I love Corey Good. Docs me, everything is forgiven.
I gotta say, I'm having a really hard time with this whole Corey Good, and people
You're having a hard time with this Corey Good thing. Yeah,
I mean, a really hard time. I mean, people go, Lorien, but you're the lady who brought out all the crazies, right? And I go, but what you guys don't understand is that some of these crazies have amazing pieces of information, and you should never write them off. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when you get beyond that, all the people that I've ever had at my events, none of them are making any money. None of them are famous.
Right.
They're not Corey Good, and they're not acting like it,
Two things that I want to press you on. Number one is a philosophical thought that an observation that I've made multiple times that I think is in alignment with what you just said, which is it's never the people so people say to me all the time, like, CW, like, why do you give all these people a hard time? Like, even if they were having mental problems or whatever, or things could happen to people, or do you really think that the only things that people can experience in the world are things that you think are believable? And I say, the real thing is this, is that it would never occur to me. I meet people online who tell stories that are just as crazy as Corey Good, but I believe them in a way not because I necessarily believe, in the aliens that they're talking about that can travel through walls and stuff, but because they're shaken, they're upset, they're messed with. It doesn't occur to them to say, and I go, these people never get booked at these conferences. They never get booked for the internet radio appearance. They never get on Coast to Coast AM because they're scary. They're not selling anything. It's only the jagoffs that totally are like, and in that moment they turned to me and said, you have a special mission, but it's a special mission not for you, but for all of humanity. You must be together as one. Join the peace train. And I'm just like, get the out of here, the blue bluebird of happiness douchebaggery bullcrap that you just got from the Shaver Mysteries and all an old episode of Star Trek, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know
Yeah,
what I
see,
mean? It's
that's the
never the
stuff that
people that I
makes me
really
crazy.
believe are experiencing anything that ever get anywhere, because they're not telegenic, right? They're not
Exactly.
photogenic. They don't sell tickets. No
Yeah,
one wants to pay the tickets to go see a horror show. They want to pay the tickets to see but here's the thing. Even Travis Walton. Travis Walton's original story and Whitley Strieber's the same thing. Why is it that Whitley Strieber and Travis Walton both came out with stories initially that were horror show stories?
that's
Horror
right.
shows. And,
Yeah.
and within 5 years, they're all out here like even Travis Walton, his new thing, he hits the conference circuit all the time. And it's no nightmare anymore. It's all like everything that I went through, I had to go through to get to a moment of realization and cognition about the fact that they're out there to help us. And it's all secret space brotherhood too. And Whitley Strieber too, now talking about like being involved in some secret metaphysical college when he was a kid and all this
The
stuff.
Secret School. Yes,
The
I've
secret
read it. Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
The secret. I'm sorry
Yeah.
about your wife, Whitley, but it makes me think twice about believing your tales of communion when you're able to be involved in the same scene. But it's evolved now. Wherever the community goes, the story evolves too. If the community
Well,
goes dark in the '80s with John Mack and what was it, Bob Hopkins?
oh, Bud Hopkins.
Bud Hopkins. Then
Yeah.
everyone's telling horror stories. Then the minute everything gets into the go-go '90s and everyone's dropping ecstasy at the rave, all of a sudden they're all happiness and sunshine. And then
I know.
everyone's all happiness and sunshine. Like, how do you explain Travis Walton going from Fire in the Sky to It's All Good? How do you explain Whitley Strieber going from Communion to It's All Good? I don't
Well,
get it.
I can explain that because I have had a lifelong of I'm not a contactee in their sense. I've been having contact of sorts, and people can say I'm having it or I'm not. I don't care, but I get what I call downloads. I get it's a long story, but I get information. And I had, when I was out of body one time, when I was about 20 years old, a woman came to me in my bedroom, and I've had an angel over my crib when I was a baby and almost died. I mean, these are stories in my family that they told, that my grandmother saw this angel. I mean, whatever. Like I said, my story doesn't matter. What matters is that I take what I've learned and I turn it into something positive for my life. And I have to say, when I was younger, I wasn't all thrilled about everything that was going on with all the psychic stuff, because I was seeing things that weren't pleasant to see. I would see people, maybe they were going to die, maybe they had cancer. It wasn't like it was all a bed of roses. People think if you're psychic, oh yay, whoopee doo, everything's lovely. It's not, folks. And then as I got older, I finally realized, well, the reason it is that way for me is because I'm letting it be that way. I can turn it into something positive or negative or whatever. So as you get older, when you're over 50, you kind of like suddenly things have a different perspective, because your life is very different at 50 than it was at 20 or 30. And I think between Travis is a friend. I could call him tomorrow and say howdy doody. And Whitley, not so much. I don't talk to Whitley at all. But I do know this about Travis. It was so hard on him and so defined his life and so screwed up his life. You guys have no idea the hell he went through because of that whole incident. His life was hell. I mean, we're talking, divorces, we're talking problems, we're talking financial issues, we're talking hell. And a few years ago, 2012, he was very angry about the whole thing still. And then something happened. I don't know what it was, but he changed. Within a year's time, he changed. And I asked him one day, I said, what happened? You were not a happy camper last year, Travis. What happened? And basically he said, you know what? I finally accepted the fact that it happened to me, and I've accepted it. And I said, it took you this long? He goes, yeah, I was pissed for 30 years. And I said, well, that's cool. He goes, I finally understood that, I can take from it the horror, I can take from it the good. And there was some good to it. And I said, that's true. So now he gets up there and he talks about, at the end of his presentation, he talks about the positive angle of the people he saw on the ship at the last part of the incident, not the first part where he's on the ship and the original ship and they're fixing his heart and what have you. That's still very painful memories for him. But the last people that worked on him were very loving and caring, and he's now telling that part of the story, which he never knew before. He was so traumatized from this whole thing, it took him years to recover those memories. And whether they're false memories or real memories or whatever, I don't care. He's now has a positive spin on it, and I'm happy for him.
Absolutely.
Really, seriously. Who wants to live their life in that kind of horror? You want to go the rest of your life remembering that there's crazy, ugly aliens poking at your heart and, almost that killed you? I mean, it's like, I'm happy for the dude, actually, because he's got a positive spin on it now. He's happy. He talks about it. He's not nearly as upset about it as he was for years. I don't blame him. And you know what? Good for him. That's all I got to say to you folks. Good for him, because I wouldn't wish an abduction like that upon my worst enemy. Honest to God. Can you imagine being the only guy in the United States that was taken by supposed aliens for 5 days and on a ship and died? If the story's true. He believes it's true. For him, it's real. So good for him that he's come out the other side. Now, there's one other part to the Travis story that nobody knows about. And I think, did we talk about this on the last show?
I don't think so.
There was an FBI agent and his wife up in the hills that saw the ship, and they saw the beam. Because it went behind the trees, so they didn't see where the beam actually went that hit him. Because, you got 7 witnesses to this, right? Or 6. I can't remember. So we pretty much know the story's probably true. Okay. Now, whether he was taken on a ship or whether there's government involvement, there's always going to be that question for me. Why was that FBI agent and his wife in the hills, supposedly on a hunting trip, see the whole thing go down, tell their regional boss they saw it, that they know the guys aren't lying about the craft when it first came out, the first couple of days after Travis was missing. And so that's a whole interesting aspect. And whenever I talk to anybody about it, they don't want to talk about it. But to me, that's very significant that those guys were there and witnessed this whole thing. And it never became part of his story. I'm sure the government told him he couldn't. Or how do we know the government wasn't the perpetrators,
Or how do we know that the government didn't say, like, we're going to play, both sides against the middle, and we're just going to make a field report that says that we saw it, so to help control the narrative for some reason.
Yeah. We don't know. We have no idea.
We never know.
We'll never know, because no one's going to talk about it. I can't get a FOIA on it, and nobody can find out what those people were doing there,
Right. It's like none of the central philosophical questions that really keep people pondering tonight are going to be answered by having aliens with new amazing technology show up, right? That's going to be the internal questions of like what is God, or what I mean, what's it all about? What's the meaning of life? Like, I don't know if those disclosures going to change that.
I wish to God, I pray every day that whatever aliens are out there that are dealing with us, that they all come by here and they all stop on the planet and come out of their ships and say, "Hey, we're here," and
would that make sense? If they're,
why don't you just do it?
Here, why not be here, right?
Yeah, but I gotta say, if I was them, I wouldn't do it. You know why? Because we're idiot savages. We'd start shooting at them. Just like to the Stars Academy wants to do.
No, see, here's the thing. There's a couple of if you take like Bible study classes, like if you go to Bible college, they'll teach you what's known as apologetics. There's all sorts of things in the Bible that make sense. There's all sorts of things in the Bible that don't make sense. And there's a field of biblical studies called apologetics, where you take those things that don't make sense and you explain it, like things like, if this, that, like, why would God if God created everything and knows everything, is omnipotent and omnipotent and knows and understands everything, then can he change his mind? Or if he already knows that you're going to go to hell the day you're born, what's the thing? And then you have these things like, oh, but no, there's free will. like there's all these explanations and these outs for, or like God works in mysterious ways. There's like a series of that.
Exactly.
And when it comes to the disclosure thing, I think that or alien life on planet Earth, there's all sorts of explanations. Like, why doesn't the government just tell us the truth? Oh, because we couldn't handle it. There'd be revolutions in the street where it would be a challenge to our religious notions. It would be a challenge to this. And I'm like,
Right.
not necessarily. Like that's not a fact. That's a presumption about what might happen. And I don't think like people get shocked and challenged by new developments and changes in their lives all the time. Cable television, color TV, invasions, the nuclear weapons, you know what I mean? Whatever the internet, like, you know, people don't freak out when something new happens. They go, oh, there's a new revelation, you know, whatever. And why would they freak out when all the people believe that there's life on other planets anyway?
Absolutely. Let me tell you what I know is happening. Okay.
Okay. Lay it
I
on me,
know
sister.
this because I can smell it a mile away. When you got that many CIA agents on a stage that run deep, dark black ops like some of them have been known to do. If you've done your study, oh, by the way, folks, if you go to my MUFON, that's MUFON, Marin, MARIN, Sonoma, SONOMA, that's Marin County, Sonoma County, MUFONMarinSonoma.com, and you go to the, I think it's called video or store or whatever page. A friend of mine, Melinda Leslie, has done her homework. This woman is brilliant. She did her homework on all the characters behind disclosure for the last 50 years. And if you want to know the truth about who's behind disclosure, you go watch that video and it will blow you away. This is the truth about what's going on about disclosure. We've had the same players in the game, and there's 200 of them thereabouts that have been telling us how this is all going to play out and what they've got planned. Here's the deal. From what I figured out that they're doing 5-year segments right now that are going to turn into 20-year packages. In other words, for the next 5 years, we're going to get tic-tac videos and gimbal videos, and the military did this and blah, blah, blah. And so that'll all become these, they don't call them UFOs anymore. They're called unidentified aerial phenomena. So now they're UAPs, and they're going to build that into our nomenclature. So we all think they're UAPs. We all know they're real, and they keep you from asking the question about who's driving them and why are they here. They just want to let you know they are here, and they're going to take 5 years to let you know they are here. Then after that, they're going to take another 5 years as us older folks who've been around since, you know, God invented Keith Arnold in the 1947, you know, sighting, that have been asking the questions for so long are all dying off. I mean, most of the old timers are all dead from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and now the next, the 80s, 90s, and 2000 people are all croaking. So now we've got a whole new generation of people that think they won't even know what a UFO is anymore. In 20 years, it's going to be unidentified aerial phenomena. And then the next 20 years from now, then it will be the next generation comes up. And now it's like, oh, we know they're there. Then they'll start slowly introducing the fact that there is extraterrestrial life on other planets, and they've been visiting us and making sure that we're okay and blah, 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 or whatever. Or they'll say, they're a threat, and we need to have a space force out there that can blow them up at any given moment, because they have been coming here for thousands of years watching us. Okay, so that'll be the next 5 or 10 years. I don't know how they're going to play it out, but folks, it's a long process. It isn't like next year they're going to disclose.
Right.
Okay.
What would be the value? A couple of questions are keyed in for me. What's the value of changing the name from UFO to UAP?
Because the younger people will start seeing it as that is how it's described. That becomes their version of it. The UFO connotation tells anybody over 40 that there's an alien behind the wheel. You put UAP in there and it starts taking away. It's just an unidentified aerial phenomena. We don't know if it's alien. We don't know if it's natural. We don't know what it is. But if it is an alien ship or an unidentified ship, then we need to, do some research into it before we draw any conclusions. Okay? Because you talk to anybody over 50 and you say UFO, they all instantly know that there's somebody driving it that's an alien.
So
Okay.
it's like resetting the cultural notion of the
That's
assumptions.
right.
Okay,
That's
I get
right.
you.
You got it. You got it.
But
It's a, yeah,
what
go ahead.
what's the point of trying to keep it like, because here's like I've like we've all heard the stories that the powers that be in the United States government, that you become elected president of the United States, they bring you into the back room and they tell you the truth, like they tell you the dirty little secrets, that they've known this stuff, that they've been aliens have been visiting for thousands of years or whatever the case may be. But then I'm like, but from generation to generation within the deep state, people pass away and die, so people would have to keep on, like, how do you maintain
Oh God, that's so,
like 5 and 10 year plans? Like, why not just like
that is
why?
so easy. Why do you think they have Skull and Bones? Why do you think they have all these societies? Why do you think they groom their children from birth to go into the next generation of keeping secrets or letting them out slowly as they desire?
What's the value of the secret? I mean, I don't
Well,
understand.
I wish I knew. Honest to God, I wish I knew. All I
Right.
know is that the CIA, the FBI, the deep military people, the people, the Department of Defense, whatever, who's ever running the alien show, I call it, those guys do not want it to happen the way the UFO community wants it to happen. And they've done everything they can to get their hooks into our community and divide us. And they've done a very good job with the whole Gory Good thing. I mean, they're sitting back laughing at us like you can't even believe. And it just bothers me. I mean, people go, "Oh, you're against Corey Good." I say, "Yeah, I'm against Corey Good because he's a flim flam artist.
Sure, sure,
We
sure.
can't have him in the community." But they're I think they're just trying to see how mind controlled they can get the whole cult following of people. They did it with Jim Jones. They've done it forever. I mean, it's how far can we push these people before they finally figure out they're being had? And with Corey Good, it seems that everybody drank, who drank the Kool-Aid is
That's
still on
so
the
crazy to me.
bus.
I don't understand how in 2008, it's like, like I can understand people, like, because of the way that it's in deep and ingrained into the culture. I can understand people growing up in the Middle East and becoming, Muslims. I can
Exactly.
understand people in Buddhist countries becoming Buddhist, and I can understand in America there's a long-standing tradition of Judeo-Christian traditions or whatever, and people being able to believe things like, about the story of Jesus Christ or whatever. But when I think to myself in 2018, in an increasingly secular society, I don't even in the UFO New Age spirituality community, I don't know how people look at Corey Good's revelations and Corey Good's information and how it takes off and gets a foothold. It's the same thing with Donald Marshall. Do you know about Donald Marshall?
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God.
I don't
Yeah.
understand how Donald Marshall, but Donald Marshall was but these guys are real phenomenons. Like, it always happens the same way. They come out with a fantastical new variation that's it's like a hodgepodge of the things that went before, with a couple of different unique characteristics. And within like the first 6 months, there's going to be at least 5 or 6 other guys and gals that come out and say, I can verify that story because I've been at human cloning too. Like with Donald
Right.
Marshall, it was Og Tellez, it was Spencer Eskridge, it was A Voice Crying in the Wilderness, it was this guy Philip Chalupa, and it was this rapper B.O.B. that were talking about all this stuff. And then
Right.
all of a sudden, Donald Marshall just disappeared.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I think God, it's very complex. It's so simple. I think whoever's dabbling into our society of our let's just call it the UFO society, okay? Whoever pays attention to it, they have been using all kinds of techniques to get us to be off track of what's really going on. And I think Donald Marshall's a prime example of somebody that they put in play. I absolutely believe they were doing some kind of mind control on this guy. I mean, you couldn't be as whacked out as this guy is without some kind of mind control, unless
Well,
you're
yeah, you
really.
could. You could be on beer and cannabis.
That's
You know what I mean? Like that.
true.
You know what I
That's true.
mean?
You're right. You're right. But I,
Don't
I, I
don't
think
doubt people's capacity to whack themselves out.
that's true. I mean, maybe he is, but there were two or three interesting points that he brought out that I found fascinating. Number one, that they were using mind control in Hollywood to control us, which I think is absolutely true on many levels. I mean, I'm sorry, not mind control, music in the Hollywood scene, the music scene to control us.
But isn't that
That's true. I don't understand his version of it, but
right?
I know
He
that's
wrote
real.
Lady, but isn't that just taking a part of like a nostalgic tradition in America of the born again Christian saying, and if you play this Queen record backwards, it
Oh,
tells you to
I
smoke marijuana. It's fun to smoke marijuana. You know
know.
what I mean? If you play
No, no,
Stairway to Heaven,
I
I
totally
love you,
agree
my
with
sweet
you.
Satan. You know what I
But
mean? It's like,
people need to realize that he was onto something. Now, I'm not saying they use all music to mind control people. I'm saying that the CIA is very entrenched in the music industry in Los Angeles and in New York, and these guys do things with the music, and it has been since the 60s a way for them to get to us. Okay, I'm just saying that. That's the only. So one thing he did bring up that I thought was very interesting. The second thing he brought up was cloning. Now, I have done some more research on cloning than I can ever imagine. There's hardly any information out there about it except for Dolly the sheep, if you want the real scientific stuff. There are other scientific journals that have discussed it. There are white papers out there about cloning. But the most interesting thing I ever found out about cloning was I was sitting at the 2015 New Orleans conference with Ed Haslam. Does everybody know in the chat who Ed Haslam is? The guy who wrote Dr. Mary's Monkey.
about was that the origin of AIDS?
It was actually the origin of the cancer virus that they were trying to kill Castro with, but they ended up, well, no, it's actually the origin of cancer that was put in the polio vaccines back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s off of the monkey virus that they grew this vaccination on. Anyhow, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyhow, I'm sitting there listening to Ed's presentation. I'd heard it a couple of times and I'm falling asleep because I just put on this conference and I'm sitting, he's the last speaker, the last day, the whole thing. I usually go into the room and listen to the speakers. I never listen to anybody live. Okay. So I'm sitting there and falling asleep. And at the very end of his presentation, he's talking about Mary Sherman, Dr. Alton Oshner, and that whole bit that went down with Lee Harvey Oswald, David Ferry, Judith Ferry Baker, and that whole crowd when they developed the fast-acting cancer that, by the way, probably killed a whole bunch of people in the 60s that we know of, including the guy who shot Lee Harvey Oswald. He's escaping my brain right now. Anyhow, long story short, I'm sitting there listening. And he says, oh, and by the way, I'm just finding some new research out about other operations that were going on in New Orleans in 1963. And he goes, here is a picture of 3 scientists. And 2 of them, I got the name of one of them. I couldn't find the name of the other, but you guys might recognize this guy. And I'm looking at him and he's got gray hair and he's kind of older. And I'm going, God, this guy looks really familiar. And then he popped on the screen his picture of him younger, and it was Joseph Mengele. And it was 1963, Tulane University, and that they're doing genetic engineering research at Tulane in 63. Okay. And that previously, before he got out of wherever he got out of, he was part of Paperclip, but he was the dark side of Paperclip. Nobody knew that they got him out. So he was working in the United States with other scientists for years. And one of the main things they were working on was genetic engineering to be able to reanimate humans. Okay. I found this in a FOIA document somewhere buried in a dump. And I was like, okay, now this is getting crazy. So maybe they were working on cloning back then. I don't know. I had a funny feeling they were. And it's interesting to me that Dolly the sheep came along. Was it the late 80s or early 90s? Was Dolly the sheep?
It was the early 90s. I definitely
Yeah.
remember it was the early 90s.
Okay. So Dolly the sheep shows up, years later. And but we don't hear anything about it ever since then.
That's
I mean,
true. Yeah.
it's just kind of there and gone. And I'm thinking, why did they dump that Dolly the sheep on us at that time? Maybe they were starting to decide if they were going to start using cloned body parts on people. All these things the super soldiers talk about. Maybe that's what was the beginning of it, and they decided to put a kibosh on it, and they weren't going to let the public know about it. I don't know. Or maybe everything went bad for him. I have no idea. But I'm telling you, when you find out that Joseph Mengele is at Tulane University in 1963 working on genetic engineering and animation of dead material, it makes you start wondering, what were these guys doing?
Right. Well, but is the only proof that he was part of Operation Paperclip the fact that there's a photo that looks like him, that how
Oh,
he
it's
would
him.
be older?
You
Well, I
could
mean,
take FBI recognition software and it. The gap in the teeth, the ears were the same, the eyes were the same. It was him. It
so
was on.
here's the question, because then that would have implications to the Operation Paperclip protocols with the Mossad out of Israel, because the story is
That's
told that
right.
the Nazi hunters got somebody in South America as Mengele. That also came out like in the like.
That's right. So that's why I'm sitting there going, okay, now this is really crazy. This blows apart three other people's stories right here, you know? But maybe now, didn't they say they got him in the 70s?
I remember, I would have to, because I'm born in 1975, and I remember, because I remember it was like also in the National Enquirer, but I also remember that it was like seeing like PM magazine pieces on it about how they got Mengele. Well,
Yeah.
actually, I'm sitting right here on the internet. I don't know why I don't do this. Why I don't just go ahead
Yeah. How
and
do we look it
use
up?
a
Yeah.
web browser to like.
There is the thing known as the internet. But I'm just saying, in 1963, for him to pop up doing that kind of work, and then all the stories. Now, here's the kicker to this, you guys. This is where I kind of go, huh? I had a whole bunch of people that said they were mind controlled super soldiers, blah, 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 that were telling me that they had been in the room with Joseph Mengele in the 60s and 70s. And these are a lot older people that will never come forward. You'll never hear about these people. And I personally, when I'd write that down as part of their notes of interviewing them, I'd go, okay, cross that one off. They're crazy on that point, and I just like let it go. But when I saw that presentation by Ed Haslam, then I was like, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I was like, oh my God, maybe these guys are all telling me the truth.
Right.
What if it is real? What if he was around doing all these projects in Canada, the United States,
Yeah, but
South America?
well, two things. Well, number one, I got the information on Joseph Mengele, but then when we go back to Donald Marshall, when we talk about his conception of human cloning, I mean, it's tied. Look, so here's the deal: we know that there's technology, things like cloning, things like voice to skull. We know that there's these things like quantum mechanics, quantum physics. There are these things in the zeitgeist of human consciousness that we know about. And so a chancer and a romancer like Corey Good or Donald Marshall or Shane the fucking Ruiner just take the stuff and they weave it together. Like Corey Good's conceptualization of human cloning is just redundant. I mean, it's a ridiculous story. He goes to sleep at night and they bring him, so you can't see the marks on his body because it doesn't happen to that body. It happens to his body in human cloning.
I know.
And it's like, why? Why would they do this? And like all the celebrities are there. All the biggest names like Dave Mustaine of Megadeth and Bernie Mac. I mean, it's like, what? It's just bizarre. Anyway, here's where it gets interesting with the Joseph Mengele story, because check this out. No one got him. It goes like this. And this is going off Wikipedia, so this is the mainline story, right? It goes, so Mengele, fair use on Wikipedia. Mengele sailed to Argentina in July 1949, assisted by a network of former SS members. He initially lived in and around Buenos Aires, then fled to Paraguay in 1959 and Brazil in 1960, while being sought by West Germany, Israel, and Nazi hunters such as Simon Wiesenthal, who wanted to bring him to trial. He eluded capture in spite of extradition requests by the West German government and clandestine operations by the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad. He drowned in 1979 after suffering a stroke while swimming off the Brazilian coast and was buried under a false name. His remains were disinterred and positively identified by forensic examination in 1985. So that's why you get 1970s for his death, and I get something about the 1985 hit, because I would have been 10 years old watching TV and all that stuff.
That's perfect, because they were doing the exhumation and trying to figure out if it was him or not. That's very interesting.
Right.
But what they're saying there, though, is he was alive and well, and he was living in South America. What they're not telling you is how many CIA agents were flying him in and out of Canada, the United States, and South America during all this is going on. What I'm trying to do right now, which I'm having a really hard time getting any answers, is finding out how many CIA pilots are still alive that might know about what they were doing with this guy.
Okay, but we got to talk about this though. Truth and fiction and how they influence each other and go back and forth. Sarah Rachel Adams is at one of the conferences, and she's giving testimony to Miles Johnson, and she's talking about that she's memories of she's captured, and they've got the chicken wire over her face, and they're releasing the black goo onto her. And I saw that, and I was like, "That's from an episode of the X-Files."
X-Files, yeah.
Right. So now check this out. Now check this out. Watch this. We're talking about Mengele, and we're talking about human cloning. Okay, and this is from the Wikipedia article as well, under a heading "Legacy."
Okay.
Mengele's life was the inspiration for a novel and film called The Boys from Brazil, 1978, apparently the year before he died, where a fictional Mengele, portrayed by Gregory Peck, produces clones of Hitler in a clinic in Brazil.
Yep, exactly. That was an amazing movie.
But that's what I'm saying. So it's like, how do we know that we're not just... So I believe in this thing called the 20-year nostalgia loop. And the 20-year nostalgia loop says that whatever was going on in popular culture 20 years ago in music, media, and film, and is going to come back, in a new form. It's nostalgia, a little bit of nostalgia hits for the one generation, and then just enough time for the new generation to have forgotten about it to experience it again. So, for example, if we go to 1979 to 1973 to 1993, if you listen to the music of the grunge music era of bands like Nirvana, Soundgarden, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, Pearl Jam, a lot of that stuff is just rehashed 1970s rock. You know what I mean?
And then, absolutely,
and then that sort of progressive kind of hippy dippy culture and rock was replaced in like around 1977 to 79 by punk rock. And in 1997 and 1999, what was going on in America was all these bands like Rancid and Green Day and The Offspring. It was just a resurgence of punk rock. And also it was a resurgence of disco culture, like the 1970s disco culture that you go to the late 1990s and it's all that rave experience where they're not doing cocaine, they're all doing ecstasy.
Exactly.
So I don't know. It's bizarre. Yeah. It's bizarre.
Well, getting back to the Mengele thing, this is where
you never thought you'd hear. Getting back to the Mengele thing.
Getting back to the Mengele thing. Like I said, I'm trying to look at this with no rose-colored glasses on. I'm trying to get to the truth. And I know everybody says that, but my problem with our community is people aren't looking for the truth in the right places. You've got to go to FOIA documents. You've got to talk to people that were serving in agencies with 3-letter alphabets around them. You've got to surround yourself with people who might actually know something. I'm going to tell you guys a story about the Rendlesham Forest incident. And this is something that just popped up out of the blue, and people need to understand this is the kind of thing I'm trying to do with the Mengele story, is because I need to find those people that were actually involved with him at the time. And they're probably all dead now, and that's the problem, but I'm still looking for them, okay? So here's the kicker with Rendlesham. I'm at a conference. I'm talking to John Burroughs with somebody else, and somebody said something about, yeah, but there's lots more to the Rendlesham story because they were interrogated by all these different agencies after the event. And I thought, oh, that's pretty interesting. And so I did a radio show a couple months later with somebody from the Rendlesham Forest incident. And I said on the show, I said, oh, yeah, by the way, I was at a conference and Burroughs said something about, yeah, we were interrogated by different groups after the event. And I was on at that time on Chip Tatum's network called the Flying Horse or something, Fire Horse Network. And Chip is, producing the show, and he's behind the scenes on Skype, and he Skypes me and says, stay on the show afterwards. Or, I want to talk to you after the show. I'm like, okay, great. So Chip, if you don't know who Chip Tatum is, he's an ex-CIA pilot during the Barry Seal, Mena, Arkansas era of craziness, and the Oliver North incidents and, that whole bit.
Right.
And he eventually got out of the CIA by faking his own death. And that's a long story. And then he came back to the United States and he went behind a closed door hearing and told them everything he knew. And then he was allowed immunity to come back to the United States. So long story short, I'm now years later on this network that he runs, and he's telling me stay on the show afterwards. So I stay on. He says to me, Lorien, I know about the Rendlesham Forest stuff. I said, oh, really? I said, you're not a UFO guy. You don't know about this stuff. He goes, well, I know this. I flew the agents over. It was like 9 or 10 days after the incident happened at Christmas. I was flying these guys over to interrogate these guys. I said, really? You did? He goes, yeah, I was the pilot who did it. And I said, well, Jesus, I said, you need to tell these guys. He goes, oh, no, if they wanted to know, they'll find me or, whatever. And I just kind of let it go. I didn't think much of it because I thought they're in a battle right now to get Burroughs's health benefits reinstated, because one of the things that happened to all those guys that most people don't know is that the government denied that anything happened to them those evenings. It was all expunged from all records. So if they had any health issues or whatever, the VA wasn't going to take care of them. They had to prove they were vets. All of their stuff got shoved under the carpet and thrown away, and no one could prove that they were actually vets serving at that time. So it got crazy. So I'm at another conference. Burroughs is there. His lawyer's there with them. And I said to them, oh, by the way, oh no, I told my friend, I said to her, I said, oh, it's interesting. I know the pilot who flew the interrogators in, because they were speaking, they were on the stage. And my friend looks at me, her eyes get really big, and she goes, you've got to tell the lawyer, because they're looking for witnesses to prove that these guys actually were in service over there. Because the administration has lost all their records and can't even prove that they were there, let alone that the incident happened. I said, oh, okay, I'll ask him. So I did. I asked Chip. I said, will you talk to the lawyer? And he said, yes, I will. I'd be happy to help him. So lo and behold, they all get together, and yes, he did fly people over. He gave them more details than he gave me. And within 2 weeks of Chip talking to the attorney, they were able to prove through the Veterans Administration and his testimony, which helped, that these guys all did serve, and they got their DD-214s reinstated and a whole bunch of stuff. And finally, John Burroughs was able to get the medical treatment that he so deserved. Okay. So that was a good part of that story. But the more interesting part to that story is, who's flying these guys all over the world? You got to keep asking yourself that. That's what the first thing I asked myself is, who would be flying Joseph Mengele all over the United States, Canada, and South America? It has to be a CIA private pilot. Okay. So how many do we know that have come forward? How many of them can we find? How many of them are still alive, and who's willing to talk? That's who I want to find. Those are the guys that are the most important people out there. Because if they've got cancer and they're dying on their deathbed, my God, the stories they can tell you. They can tell you about flying dead Sasquatches, alien bodies. I mean, these guys have flown stuff you wouldn't even believe. The stories I've heard from some of these pilots that are living all in the Solomon Islands and hiding from everybody are unbelievable. I mean, I don't talk about
dead Sasquatch.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about the giant bones? There was a CIA guy. Well, I see, that's another thing. I'm not supposed to be talking about this, because these guys are like, yeah, they'll come and kill me because they know who I was, right?
They're not going to come and kill you.
How do you know what?
How do you know they're not just telling you stories?
I don't think so. These guys are not the kind of guys that sit and tell you stories.
What does that mean? Like, listen, hold on. You got CIA guys, right? Who are experts in flying planes, killing dudes, and getting into girls' pants. right?
Yeah, they're all good at
Yeah,
that.
they're all good
Yeah.
at that. So, so you feel like they're trustworthy. It's like, oh, really? They were able
I
to
do, and I'll
establish
tell you
rapport with
why.
you?
I'll tell you why I do.
Okay.
The ones that I have talked to, and it's only a handful, it's about 6 or 7 of them now over the years, have never met me in person face to face. They were sent to me by somebody else. They've asked me never to tell anybody this, and I don't usually talk about any of it, okay? And, I'm not writing it in a book, I'm not making money off it, they're not making any money off of it, no one's getting anything out of this. They just want me to know what happened, okay? The truth, all right? And I'm not using it. I don't use it. I use what I use it for, and I tell them this, I use it to build more puzzle pieces for my bigger picture, and that's it. So you're not going to get the only reason I can tell you the Chip story is because it was, it's public knowledge that he did that. Okay. That's the only reason you guys are getting
Right,
it.
right.
And, but that's about all I can say. But I have heard some crazy ass stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable what goes on out there. And what I'm asking your audience to do, and this is, from my heart, folks, it's really important that you don't dismiss people right off the bat that may be coming out with a story that is very interesting and aren't seeking fame and fortune. If you have a friend, if you have a relative, you got somebody comes to you and says, I got some crazy stuff going on, listen them out once, give them a chance. You never know what you might be learning, and there's a slight chance that they're completely off their rocker, whatever, but just listen to them once, make them feel like they're not going crazy. If they've got something really bad going on, they need to get it out. Just listen to them, because that is the one reason I've survived as long as I have in this whole community, is because I always tell everybody, I will listen to you. I will give you an hour of my time. And, if you want help on who to go to for help, a therapist, I've got them. If you want help with, military people, I got them. If you got targeted individual people, I got those too. I got somebody who can help you. I can't say that they're going to fix the problem, but if you're willing to address it, and maybe address the fact first that you might have a mental problem, and you're willing to do that, then I will give you the time,
Okay.
because I want to know what people are saying out there that we're not hearing in the community. Those are the people I want to talk to, not the people like Corey Good, not the people like Whitley Strieber, not all those people. I don't want to hear them anymore. I want to hear the people that are afraid to say anything,
Right.
because those are the guys that are living the ugly truth, I call it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. And speaking about those, so last time you were on, you were very popular, and I think part of the reason that you were popular was that you were willing to dish dirt. And the other thing that was very popular is you sparked a very interesting controversy that blazed on after our little transmission
It
ended, and
did?
it's
What
called
was it?
#Puppygate.
Oh, Puppygate. Well, I thought about it after I said it, and I should have been more qualifying to the fact that I don't know if my friend, now it's absolutely true. As far as I can tell, my friend would never freaking make that story up. He's a very sensitive artist. He's very honest. I've known him for a long time. Very sweet guy. And he was truly torn up when he was telling me this story. I mean, seriously torn up. To this
Right.
day, still torn up talking about it. So you can't fake that. Okay.
Right.
And I said to him, I said, do you mind if I tell anybody about this? He goes, it's been so long now, I don't care. But he said, if it had been, right after it happened,
Who
I
was
would
it?
not. Oh, no, I can't tell you who it
Yes, you
is, because
can.
I called an
Because
attorney.
no, no,
No,
no, because no, 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 because check this out. Well, I'm an attorney, so check this out. Because you're not saying that it's true. You would just be relating a hearsay story. I mean, it's not slander unless you make up another person.
no, I can't. I
Give
can't.
us a hint.
I
Give it.
can't give you a
Give us
hint.
a. You can. You can give us 2 initials.
No, I can't. I'm
Give,
sorry.
give us one initial. Give us
I
one initial.
don't.
Listen.
CJ,
Listen. Come
CJ,
on. Listen.
CW. I'm not going to do
Check
it, and I
the.
can't.
Okay. 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 That's fine. I know you can't. Let me just make my request. You give us one initial. You
Nope.
don't. No. 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 Listen. You don't say whether it's the first name or the last name.
No, no,
Oh,
I
come
can't. I'm not
on.
going to do anything, and I'll tell you why. I am
Okay.
definitely afraid of Prometheus and the History Channel. They just sued a good friend of mine, and he lost everything.
Who'd they
And I'm
sue?
not going through that.
Who'd they sue and why?
I can't tell you that either
Well, that would be a
because,
public. I mean, that would be a public. That'd be a matter of public account. I mean, if they sued,
well,
that's like
maybe he would like. Okay, I am going to tell you guys a story.
okay.
Well, let me. I want to go back to Puppygate first. Okay. Now, I
Okay.
didn't qualify it because I was tired and we'd been doing stuff for hours and, whatever. But I thought about it later. And here's something I do need to qualify. I
Okay.
don't know if my friend signed a lease that said no pets. Okay. And I don't know if this person in question that did what he did had told them, if you ever bring a pet here, I'm deathly allergic to them, they have to go. I don't know if there were warnings. I don't know if the
Okay.
girlfriend got warnings about the puppy crying. I don't know the
You don't know.
circumstances.
So you don't
Okay.
know whether the guy with the first initial J.
Anyhow, as I was saying, Mr. Prosecuting Attorney,
How about this? How about this? I'm just gonna.
here's the deal. Um, I don't know what his side, the perpetrator's side of the story is. Okay,
Which
why
perpetrator?
he did what he did, but I'll tell you this: I know he did it. I know he had the puppy killed, and I know that's all real. Okay, so
God.
yes, you guys can be as furious as you want because I was furious. I was beyond furious when I heard it. I almost confronted him at the conference,
Okay.
and
So
I
what?
was
Right.
furious.
So you don't want
Okay.
to. So the guy. We know that the guy appeared on Ancient Aliens.
Yes.
Did he appear consistently in multiple seasons, or did he just appear in season one?
I'm going to tell you guys all this. The reason my friend told me all this was because he was going to go see him at the Alien Con in 2016 in Santa Clara, California.
That was the Alien Con.
Santa Clara, California, 20, I think it wasn't this year, wasn't the year before, it was last year. It was 16, I think.
2016.
Yeah. That's all I'm going to tell you, okay? So you
Okay.
can go from there. You do your own research. Okay.
I'm going to
Yeah.
watch this. Hold on. Hold on.
Okay. So what I was going to tell you guys is the reason I'm deathly afraid of telling this story is because I called an attorney and he told me that since it is all hearsay, I'm setting myself up for libel and slander. Isn't that correct?
No, not if it's first of all, not if it's true. And then number two is you would just be relating a story that was once told to you by a friend. I mean, and first of
Yeah,
all, what's
that
the
the lawyers
damages? Like, what's the
no.
damages that the guy's gonna establish? Especially, oh, here's what the other thing that we could do. Oh, we're not gonna do it online. We're not gonna do it in the public. But I'll make another suggestion to you offline, and then we can see what's going on here. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to see something.
Well,
Hold on.
maybe I should put my friend in touch with you.
Maybe you should. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to see him soon, so I will ask him if he's willing
Hold
to
on.
go. He won't be though. I can tell you right now. He's a very shy, very sweet man. I don't think he'd want to get involved in any of this. But having said that, you guys, I want you to know something. This is what really bothers me about, okay, talk about a psyops. This Alien Con conference that they're putting on through Ancient Aliens and History Channel and Prometheus Productions.
Right.
I'm telling you folks, if you want to know who's controlling the narrative in the UFO community, it's these guys. They're trying to corner the market on the conferences, which they have. They cornered it because they're the only ones who have a national television show where they can do a whole episode about their conferences and they can flash it in your face on the screen and they get 15,000 people to show up, just like Comic Con. Actually, Comic Con's a lot more. But my point to this is Talk about a psyops. Talk about where they're getting their money from. They're controlling the narrative about what people think about what the alien contact scene is all about. And it really bothers me. Now, I am another conference producer, so people say I'm very biased about this, but even as just a person in the UFO community and a radio talk show host, I really take offense to the fact that these guys are coming out as the experts on ufology when all they are is a bunch of guys who've never had, I mean, I have a hard time with people who've never had contact getting up writing books about it. And I'm sorry, I love Richard Dolan, but it's great that he's made all these great books about what life would be after alien contact. I mean, I get that, but as far as I know, Richard Dolan is not a contactee. What I do know is that he was married to and is still probably married to someone who is a contactee, which makes him a very great guy for doing, for being involved in that kind of relationship. I think, I think Karen was a contactee, or is a contactee. But long story short, I have a hard time with people that get up on a stage who have never even had an experience telling me what the UFO agenda is all about when they don't even know what they're talking. I mean, they're not on the inside circle, so it's hard for me. It's really hard for me, and I get the analytical aspect, and that's the one part that Richard Dolan does bring to the table that I admire. He's very good at it. But the rest of them that are out there speculating, it's tough. It's tough for me to sit through it. Really tough. I'd rather hear somebody like people from the Newton Institute who talk about the consciousness aspect of it, or Grant Cameron. Have you ever listened to Grant Cameron speak about it, CW?
Hold on. Actually, would speak. Yeah, I have. But who else is a little bit fascinating?
Yeah, who's
William,
that?
William Henry.
I love William Henry. I think
Okay,
he's great.
you love William Henry. Okay.
Yeah, I do. It's sad that he's involved with the Ancient Aliens crowd now, but yeah, everybody's got to
Okay.
make a buck.
What about this guy from the Joseph Campbell Institute? Do you love
Uh,
him?
which one is that? Because I don't know. Is it?
Hold on. It's who's the guy? Who's the guy from the Joseph Campbell Institute? Maybe the live channel helped me. Hold on.
Yeah, live channel. Help us! Help us! We need help.
But it's not Seth Shostak, is it?
No, Seth is SETI Institute.
Ah,
Those are the guys that are beaming out the signal to outer space, expecting an
right.
answer.
How do you feel about him?
Oh God, don't even get me started. What a waste of time and energy and money. Seriously.
Okay. John David Ebert.
I don't know who that is.
No, that's not John David Ebert is awesome as well, but he's not the guy we're thinking of. Who was the guy from the friggin' we did the friggin' thing. We looked it up last time. We were trying to figure this out. I'm still trying. Girl, I'm not gonna lie. I'm still on Puppygate.
Okay, Puppygate.
I've been doing Alien
Okay,
Con
well,
2000.
there's nothing more to add to Puppygate except for the fact that I'm still appalled, and every time I think about it, I get madder in hell.
Do you know who? Oh, hold on. Let's see if I can find it here. Because I can't. The website for Alien Con 2016 apparently is shut down.
You bet it is. You know why? Because History Channel sued him.
Who sued who?
Phil Kim, my buddy who put on that conference. I was helping him put it on. I didn't help in a big way. What I did is he came to me and he came to my MUFON meeting and he said, everybody in the Bay Area. He goes, why didn't you do a panel for us? And I did. I had a great panel there. I brought in Robert Peralta, who does a lot about consciousness and his connection with the ET UFO world, and a lot like Grant Cameron does. And I brought in Patrick Bailey, who is he's a Mason, and it was his whole take on how the Masons are being, vilified in the UFO community. That's the evil, and conspiracy community is the evil empire. And I brought in a few other people. We had a blast, and it was fun. But there were 800 people in the room. And I was like, how did 800 people come in this room that don't even know who we are? Why are they here? And they loved it. They loved the whole panel. They loved the whole idea. And a bunch of them came up to us later and said, we got more information on your panel out of you guys than we ever got out of any of the ancient alien guys in the other room. Which was quite interesting. I was quite taken aback by that. But anyhow, Phil Kim's putting on this event, and they realize Ancient Aliens is the first one they ever put on, and the History Channel realize that they have a cash cow. I mean, a huge cash cow. You guys have no idea how much money they made off that first one. There was so much money exchanging hands, and they realized they were giving Phil, they weren't giving him a big cut, but they were giving him more than they probably could get away with.
Right.
And they said to Phil, oh, I know what it was. They basically said, you know, this is a very interesting crowd of people. How did you get them all here and all this stuff? And they went on their way, and everybody was happy. But Phil did say they were, you know, him and hawing about paying him. Okay, so they finally pay him, and then a month or two later, he calls me and he says, "Guess what? I'm going to put on a conference called Alien Con, not Alien Con, UFO Alien Con or Alien something. I don't even remember the name of it. And we're going to do it in Texas, and we're going to have a blast. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And guess what? You get to help me pick speakers." And so I was picking some really good people like Jim Mars, and we're going to bring in Dolan and, you know, a lot of good people, I thought. Anyhow, long story short, we start putting this on. The next thing we know, knock, knock, knock at Phil's door. "You can't put on any conferences that have anything to do with aliens because you work for us." So they went after him. They shut him down. They made his life a living freaking hell. And now he can't put on, he has a no compete now with them. So he can't put on any kind of alien conference at all.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
You know who else is interesting? David Childress.
He is, I don't know where that guy gets off, man. I don't know. I do not understand. He's just a writer. I mean, the guy, I don't know what, you know, he's like a non-entity to me.
So you don't hate him.
Nah, I don't hate him. I just think he's kind of a buffoon. I know that's my personal opinion about him. He's just,
okay. And how do you feel about George Norrie?
I love George Norrie.
I know
George people go, "Why do you
killed
love
the puppy? Norrie? Who killed the puppy?"
I'm not telling you guys who killed the puppy.
Was it Linda Moulton Howe?
I'm not telling you who killed the puppy. I'm not telling you. I can't.
Would you tell me offline?
No.
What do you know?
Because you'll blab it all over.
No, I won't. I just have to know for May.
No, I can't. Yes, because my attorney told me that I'm messing with fire.
Did your attorney tell you that you couldn't say one initial? One initial.
No, he said you don't say nothing, because Phil and I got on the phone after they sued him, and he goes, "Lorien, I didn't do anything wrong. I was doing this, I was doing that. I just tried to put it on." And they went to court telling the court that he had manipulated them into their contract with him, basically on the grounds that he was planning on doing stuff in the future and wanted to get their email list. And their email list is huge. It's hundreds of thousands of people, which he didn't get, by the way. And so this whole thing turned into a nasty, horrible thing. And he was accused of doing stuff he didn't do. And then he was accused of not doing stuff he did do. And I'm not going to end up with these guys. They're scumbags. The whole channel is a scumbag channel.
Well, isn't Ancient Aliens isn't it like at the end of its rope? Is how much juice is left in that grape?
Probably a year or two is my guess. But there'll be a spin-off. It isn't like you have to worry about Ancient Aliens going away, because they'll come up with something else. You know, they just came up with Project Blue Book. They'll use Giorgio for something else, and he'll keep.
This is really crazy. I swear to Jesus, I'm looking for a lineup. I'm thinking to myself, of all the things that you're trying to look up online, the Alien Con Santa Clara, California 2016 lineup is not going to be a difficult thing to locate.
Yeah, it
And
is.
yet,
It's been scrubbed.
I can't find it.
Yeah, History Channel had it scrubbed.
Do you remember who appeared?
Most of the cast of Ancient Aliens.
Like whom?
The regular cast.
Like whom?
I can't tell you because I don't remember.
Well, who do you remember? Some of them, right?
I barely. I mean, honest to God, that because I lump them all together as one big massive, thing, and I don't think about it. So
you don't think about it at all.
Nope, don't think about it at all.
Can't think of one name.
Can't think of one name, not at all.
But wait, hold on. Excuse me, sister. You had memories. You recovered memories of like James Casbolt and these guys. Like not.
I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
But
therapy. I didn't do any of that.
Are you gonna tell me? Are you gonna tell me? Are you gonna gaslight me and tell me that you can't remember one name from the 2016 Alien Con?
CW, I just adore
Name an innocent party.
But I can't reveal this.
Oh, you don't have to. Why don't you do this? No, check this out.
Cute.
No, check this out.
Your wife married you.
Check this out. Check this out.
You didn't let her go. You just kept on her and hounding her, man. I can see
that. I know what to do. Okay, hey, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do.
God. Oh God.
No. Tell me. You just name every innocent party you remember that was there.
No, I'm not doing that. I don't.
You're going to tell me that your lawyer told you.
I don't remember who was there, to be honest with you.
You can't remember. It was 2 years ago.
Okay, ask me how many conferences I've been to since then. Like 50? I mean, I go to a conference a month. Yeah, I go to a conference a month. I just got back from one.
You can see these guys on YouTube. Why do you go there? Why do you do this to yourself?
Well, I'm a conference producer. 3 or 4 of them I'm producing, actually. And then the other part is of it that I need to go keep up on who's speaking where, what, and how.
But isn't it always the same people? Like there's no variation in this whole scene. It's like the same guys over and over again.
But you'd be surprised at the people in the audience that are there. I find some amazing people in the audiences. And I meet new people, and I keep fresh. I try to keep fresh on what's going on out there. And like I told you guys, I really try to keep an open mind. I let people tell me their stories. I listen to it. I don't judge people. I buy people dinner. It's like, hey, let's go talk about what happened to you. And we go to dinner. And honestly, I'm a very happy person because I'm not judgmental. And it just keeps me fresh. It keeps them fresh, keeps everybody happy in the community. I am a kumbaya person. I hate to tell you, but there are the people that are part of this whole, crazy. I mean, it's unbelievable. The scammers that are on the stages. That's the part that makes me nuts, is that. The girlfriend of Alex Collier that came to me. Did I tell you that story?
Yeah, you did. You told us.
Yeah. I mean, there's people like that out there that should be on stage. She's an amazing person. She has stories that'll curl your toes, and she's not on stage. She doesn't want to be. See, this is where I'm finding that the real people are. They're the ones that don't want to be on that stage. That's where I get my good information.
Right. Why don't you name me one person who does like to be on stage?
Hoagland. Hoagland's a crazy man. I swear to God. I told you the story about him, why he doesn't appear anymore anywhere.
He burned too many bridges?
He's burned every bridge. He's just, after what he did to Cynthia Crawford in 2011, I was like, that's
it. What did he do to Cynthia Crawford?
He talked right through her presentation time.
Oh, right.
And he didn't even care. He didn't even care. What? I don't know how anybody can live with themselves after that kind of antics. It's just unbelievable.
It sounds like a doucher. Why can I not find the lineup to this thing? This is ridiculous.
History Channel had it scrubbed. I'm telling you, it was a nasty battle in court.
So you can remember that much.
I remember that much because Phil didn't talk to me for a while afterwards. I was like, what happened? What happened? Because he says, we're going to put on this conference. And then he texts me one day and he goes, guess what? You can't put on the conference now. I'm like, what? He goes, I'll tell you about it all later. And then a month later, he says, I'm still being pursued by History Channel. They're still coming after me. And I said, okay. And then he said, tell everybody I'm so sorry. We invited them. I had invites out to everybody, you know, 20, 30 people. And I called them personally on the phone and said, I need you at this conference. And they were all like gung ho. Even Jim Mars was calling me every 2 days. Lorien, where's my invite? I want to go to this. It's going to be great. You know, I had so much fun at the last one, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Jim, I'm sorry. I think we're dead in the water, you know, and I had to tell Jim. I felt terrible.
I'm on the hunt for these guys.
Well, good luck, because you're not going to find them. I'm telling you, they scrubbed it. They had everything pulled. They had everything pulled off the freaking net, man. I can't even find it in the Wayback Machine nor the cached sites.
That's incredible.
Because I'm on there. I wanted to prove to people that I was actually speaking there. So, yeah, it was just nutty. So, yeah. Anyhow.
What? Breach has the line. Wait. Who has the lineup? I'm sorry. I was so busy searching for it myself. Hold on. Here we go. David Silver, Nick Pope, William Henry, David Childress, and Seth Shostak. Yeah, I saw that one too. But where's the other people? I'm not searching the dark web for this information.
Is that what they're telling you to do?
No, I'm not doing that. I'd say it was people are saying Childress. Oh, okay. I get it. Yeah, no, it's totally not David Childress. No, it couldn't be. Right?
Why does he have dogs?
I don't know. Does he?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know either. Okay, I get it.
Okay, so I can't talk about this.
No, we're gonna drop it. Well, we don't need to talk about it anymore, right?
Well, I don't think so, because I just can't. So, you know,
I get it. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, people don't understand what they did to Phil. They would come after me like huge.
Seriously.
And I'm not playing that game with these people.
They're gonna come at you with that heavy Adventures Unlimited press money.
Adventures Unlimited.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're gonna activate Joseph P. Farrell's Secret Order to Kill.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
The last thing you see is a hat. You know what I mean? You come into your living room and you're like, you smell that smell. It's like smoke. You're like, wait, well, I'm smoking. Boom. You know what I mean? Comes up behind you, goes, okay, so I'm gonna have to do what I'm gonna have to do, but don't worry. Okay, it's not gonna hurt too bad.
It's not gonna hurt too much. Okay.
Just go to sleep. I got to work on my Joseph P. Farrell impersonation. I can't, you know what I mean?
Oh, Joseph, he's something else. I love him. He cracks me up.
He does. It's like, I told you if you messed around, I'd have to kill you.
I have a couple of friends like that, and they ain't joking, man. When they say that, they're not joking. But what's even funnier about that is my friend that says, I can't tell you because I'll have to kill myself. He cracks me up because he's like, you know, he's worked for every alphabet agency, Department of Defense, you know, all this stuff. And then he turns it on himself. He goes, I'd have to kill myself because if I tell you, they will kill me. You know, I'm like, okay. He goes, they won't kill you. They'll just kill me.
Right. I just love how we have like a crack team of like very, very intelligent people in the live chat. For the life of us, all of us are like, why can't we find the lineup? You know what I mean?
I know. Are you guys all frustrated? Think how I felt.
You lit a fire. People are gonna go after Puppy Game like people went after the ghost of JFK. You have no idea.
Good. I'm glad they are. I'm glad they are.
Are you so glad that you won't just tell us? I mean, like, why?
No, I can't.
Like, actually,
but here's what I will do. If you will do attorney privilege with my buddy, and I can convince him to talk to you, which is going to be like, you know, pulling teeth from a
right. Well, then I would know, but no, because I'm like such an asshole. Like, there's no way. Like, it would drive me crazy. I'd be sitting there like all the time, like, I don't say it. I can't say anything. Attorney-client privilege.
Yeah, see, that's it,
You
because
know
he
what I
doesn't
mean?
want to get sued either, and he doesn't want to lose everything. I called him. He's like, no, no. He's like,
Right?
no way,
You'd be like, and the thing about the blue jay is that they can fly far and widener all over the map.
Ah! I almost just choked. Oh my God.
Activated the secret code.
Oh my God, you're killing me.
Lorien,
That's so
don't
funny.
you think that the Jay would want to fly Widener over the thing?
Oh God, that man. Oh, I gotta tell you a story about Jay Widener. You guys are gonna love this. I'm at a conference with him. It's 2012. I'm sitting there. He's having breakfast. He's telling us all about this great new platform that they're starting in Denver, Colorado. It was before Gaia even came out, and he's working with what's her name, Meredith. I can't think of her first name. Anyhow, and her husband, and they're going to change the world about how consciousness, UFOs, conspiracy, and all that's handled, right? And he's sitting there, and he eats this big breakfast, and then he orders 3 fresh squeezed orange juices at $6 or $8 a pop, and his meal came out to like 40 or $50, and everybody's playing separate checks, and then he looks at me and says, will you get this for me? And before I could even say yes, no, or whatever, he gets up and leaves the table and leaves me stuck with this check. And I'm like, what a turd. I couldn't believe it.
And you know when a guy does that, when he orders 3 orange juices, he's like, he's got no intent. He knew he was flying. He knew
Oh
he
God.
was gonna do a dine and dash.
I
Jay Widener
know.
on the dine and dash. And at that point, right, isn't he hooked up to the Jersey money? Wouldn't he have like the cash to pay? Shouldn't he have an expense
I
account at
think
that
he was
point?
pretty poor at that time. I think it was one of those times when he had nothing,
Oh
and
my
he just
God.
played us, man. I was sitting across from him, and I was the conference producer, so it was like I got stuck. I didn't invite him to our conference; he just shows up, right? I mean, this isn't even. It isn't like I wanted him there. Oh my God.
Oh my
Anyhow,
God.
I know, and that's just
Jay Widener on the dine and dash.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was just too funny. Anyhow, let's see. God, I had some great stories lined up for you tonight about people. We should probably get to them and then get off the horn here.
Yeah, it's like it's 12:30 for me, so like we got
Oh yeah, yeah. We
do.
got to wrap this up soon.
Well, no, but here's the thing I was gonna say is that maybe the live audience has the live chat audience has suggestions of people they would want to hear stories about.
Well, let me see if I've got them for them. Yeah, throw somebody at me.
If you want to make any suggestions for stories. Well, you were saying that did you see Emery Smith recently?
Yes. Oh my God, you guys are going to love this. Okay, I got it. I should tell you guys about what happened to me this last weekend. I can't say names again because it'll cause a lot of friction in the community, but I was at a conference in Laughlin, Nevada. You guys can look it up yourself if you want. Just find it this past weekend, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, Laughlin, Nevada, whatever. Anyhow, I'm at this conference, and he is a speaker there. And I'm listening to his first, oh God, I'm going to start laughing. I'm not going to be able to stop. I'm so sorry. But I'm listening to his first interview. And the woman interviewing him is the woman who's putting on the conference. And she's asking him these questions. And I'm sitting with my friend who's taking notes. Now, she thinks this guy is a major fraud. Okay. So she's taking all these notes. And I'll never forget the last note on this whole thing was it was all about the cafeteria. They got to the point where he is now working with aliens that smell funny, and he's doing autopsies. He goes in an underground lab. I mean, we're getting all this story, right? And, I even told my friend, I said, I know you absolutely can't stand this guy, but maybe there's a grain of truth to it. Only because at one point I was working with a lady who was doing training for people, all the scientists at Sandia Labs, Berkeley National Labs, Los Alamos, all these places. And I had gotten some information just not clandestinely, but what do they call that? Just happened by accident, haphazardly, kind of like, oh yeah, I've got to go down 5 levels to blah, blah, while they're talking to each other out in the hallway during the training classes. And I'm thinking to myself, there's not 5 levels here. But, at the time, back in the 90s, when I was doing all this work, I wasn't quite as, into it as I am now. And I think back and I go, oh, 5 levels down, huh? 5 levels down where? There's nowhere to go. Anyhow, so this is the kind of stuff. So I'm listening to this thinking, well, maybe it's possible he did go 5 levels down or 3 levels down or whatever. And, whatever. But she's making all these notes. And the last one was that he's talking about going to the cafeteria and the aliens are eating with them in the cafeteria. And he has to go up to these, they're like computer screens where they're all over covering a wall. They're holographic computer screens, or like those glass pads that Corey Good talks about. And you have to order your food off of these screens, and that all the food, and this is where she just lost it. She was laughing so hard she couldn't even stand. I had to almost kick her out of the room. Is that all the food is 3D printed. And I was like, well, now wait a minute. I'm always like, maybe it was 3D printed because they have that new fake protein that looks like meat. Maybe they have to print, 3D print it out of a squirt tube to make it look like a steak before they cook it. I don't know. But anyhow, she just was like, there's no way in hell they're 3D printing food. I said, yeah, maybe they could on one of them, so we were laughing about that. That was pretty funny. But here's the kicker, you guys. We go out into the hallway and we were looking up the Alien Con event coming up this weekend in Baltimore, and we're looking at the prices because one of them was thinking about infiltrating for fun and fun and profit, as I say, infiltrating for fun and profit. And while she's doing it, we're looking up the prices for autographs and photographs. And we hit this page where it says Giorgio Tsoukalos and Eric Van Donigen were charging $150 to get a picture with them, and an autographed picture with them. And I looked at her and I said, what happened to the days back in 2011 when he's at the Bal Theater in Fremont, California, and there's 15 people in the audience, and we all didn't need a photograph. We'd have to pay for a photograph with Giorgio back then. I said, my God, things have changed so much. And then we were looking further down the list, and it's $45 for an autograph with Linda Moulton Howe, and all this. And we're like, oh my God, what's happened to you?
Oh my God.
I mean, we were just like, we were so grossed out. And then my friend, I can't tell you her name, she walks up to us. She had already looked at the site and knew about this. She's the one who turned us on to it to go look at these prices. And she walks up just as we're looking at the last price, and it says Emery Smith, $35 for a photograph with him. She goes, turn around. So we turn around. There's Emery Smith with 4 or 5 of his fan people, and they're taking pictures up against the wall. And she says, look at that, photographs for free. And we started
hey,
laughing
if you're Emery Smith, you're second banana. You're the guy. You know who Emery Smith is? This is a Velvet Underground joke. Emery Smith is the David Yule of what am I thinking of? Cosmic Disclosure, right?
Cosmic Disclosure, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
He's the guy that replaced. He's the guy that replaced
him. Yeah, what? Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, he was the guy that replaced the dude, and I can't even remember his name. Yeah. Oh my God. So I know that's not funny to most people, but when you're standing there and he's 7 feet behind you and he's taking pictures with his only 4 people there that even cared about him, right? This is an older crowd at this conference. Yeah. And there's these 4 young kids, and they're all like, I want a picture with Emery. And then my friend walks up and says, oh, look, for free.
There you go.
What the hell?
Yeah. And I just want to say to Windsor in the live chat, no, absolutely. No. We know the cast of Ancient Aliens. We specifically wanted the cast of the lineup for Alien Con 2016. That was the hunt for Red October. But you know what I mean? It's all good. You tried. No, we all went through that list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah, no one's gonna pay for a picture with Emery Smith. That's like posing for a picture
I
with the
mean, my
friggin'
God. I just, see, this is the part of this whole thing that makes me go out of my freaking mind. I'm
So
standing there, I'm trying to put on a legitimate conference with, semi-intelligent people from all sides of the spectrum. I give everybody a chance. And then we have these people like Emery Smith come along and act like they're gods. It makes
right.
me nuts.
Well, they
You know,
do you know about Emery Smith's like amazing criminal record that was like released because the
no, I
docs the
don't.
so here's the story. Here's how things are triangulating. We know that a couple of weeks ago, someone did a deep docs on Emery Smith with his entire
Okay.
criminal record, which is actually quite extensive.
Oh my God.
And you know what I mean? And it turns out that people were like, what? That I'm triangulating because several different people are reaching out to me, trying to help me try to figure out who doxed me and who doxed whatever. And all roads lead back to Corey and Roger. That's like the
Right.
unanimous decision is like, no, they're absolutely like the people that did it. And they go, the first victim was Emery Smith.
What?
They're the guys that it seems I have no problem speculating. I have no problem speculating that the doxing of Emery Smith came from the possibly speculating that it came from the Corey Good camp. Go ahead and sue me for speculating that. You know what I
I,
mean?
I have this big joke that I tell everybody. I say Corey's kids are the deep dark web children. They're like the kids that you just say point
They're
them in
not,
the direction.
you know what I mean? It's like, well, I mean, like, first of all, it's like, how many Corey kids are there? There's got to be like 7 tops. You know what I
Right,
mean? It's like, this is
right.
not a huge rock star operation. And
I
anyway,
know, but
it's so interesting.
they
It's so
sure were acting
interesting.
like it was. It's crazy.
Well,
So
it's like, it's this is the expression I always use with Corey Good. Be careful who you step on your way up to the top because those are the exact same people you're gonna have to hit on your journey to the bottom.
that's
Now
right.
the real question is this that is what's gonna happen to David Wilcock.
Well, I'm sorry. I just, I can't stand him. I just can't stand him. I told you the story about what he did to me, right? 2010.
Tell us again, just in case.
Okay, and what he did to my friend. Well, I'll tell you this quickly. I'm at a conference in 2000 and no, it was 11, and I'm waiting in line to talk to him because a gentleman and I were putting on our first UFO con up in San Francisco that next 9 months from then, and I was looking for speakers for the conference. And I thought, well, I just listened to his presentation. He was actually kind of coherent back in those days and he wasn't full of himself. And it was a good presentation. It was about consciousness and evolution and free energy. I don't know how that got thrown in, but it did. And what have you. So I'm waiting in line. Everybody else has a book in their hand that they just bought for the table, next to him. And I'm waiting in line. I get up to him and he looks down at my hands as I say, "Hi, David. My name is," before I could even get my name out, he says, "Where's your book?" I said, "Well, I didn't buy one." He goes, "You got to get out of line so I can, sign these books for the people who paid for them." And I'm thinking, what? And I said, all I wanted, and all I could say was, all I wanted to do. And before I could finish it, he goes, "Get out of line." Like, okay. And I did. And I never, and from that moment on, I said, I will never have that guy speaking for me. I'll never be near him. I can't stand him. He's an egotistical maniac and he got worse and
Egotistical
worse and worse.
maniac. No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, it just got worse and worse. And before I could even say to him, "Hi, David, can I talk to you later? I'm putting on a conference in San Francisco. Want to talk to you about being there," and shake his hand and walk away. That would have taken 30 seconds of his life. But because he acted like a jerk to me, and now he's made an enemy for life, And everybody says to me, "Lorien, you got to forgive and forget." And I'm like, no,
Oh
I
yeah,
don't.
white light, the great white light
Yeah, no,
excuse.
it ain't going to happen. Sorry.
Yeah.
And just the way it is, and there's nothing I can do about it. People want to play that game, that's fine, but once they show their true colors to me, it's over. I don't play games. I know what people are like. I'm too old to play games.
I
These
hear
20,
you. Yeah.
30-year-olds, they can sit around all they want and kumbaya together and say that everybody's wonderful and why are you hating on me and why are you being so competitive and, all that crap. When in reality, I'm the least competitive, the least whatever. I just write you off if you screw me over. It's that simple.
There you go.
Once you do it, you're gone. I
Well,
was
yeah.
raised differently than most people.
Well, David Wilcock is a special exception because his egotism knows no bounds. He was the
Oh
guy
my
to when he was on Jimmy Church. This is like at least 2-3 years ago at this point. They asked him like, "Where do you think you'll be in a post-disclosure world?" And he's like, "I'll probably be treated like a rock star. I'll probably need a retinue of
what?
bodyguards. Yeah. Oh, if I'm lying, I'm dying."
What?
He said, "I'll be treated like a rock star." And it's like, what? I said, first of all, like disclosure happens, like either we're all going to be working in the salt mines for our alien masters and overlords, being like
Exactly.
butt plug experimented on, or they're going to be the good guys, and we're all going to be beyond ego in the fifth dimension. So why the would you
Exactly.
think that you would be living like a rock star? I go, the person who's going to get the credit for disclosing stuff is not going to be you. It's going to be the president of the United States and the prime minister of
That's
Russia.
right.
It's not going to be
Thank
you.
you.
You know what I
I
mean? You
know.
retard. Sorry, you idiot. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? What a
No,
jackass.
exactly. Exactly. And then what he did to my friend, I had a friend who just started in radio. He's fairly big in the internet scene now. And he said to me, we're at a conference together again, and I'm at my table, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to go over and ask David Wilcock if he'll come on my radio show." I'm sure I told you this, right?
Maybe. I don't know. Tell me again.
Well,
Maybe just throws him
anyhow,
under the bus.
so I said, no, no, because I was looking over at David and him and his girlfriend were having a big fight and he was being loud and obnoxious and rude to her. So I thought, oh, geez, this isn't going well, right? So I told my friend, I said, no, no, don't do it now. Don't do it now. I said, do it tomorrow. And he goes, well, he won't be here tomorrow. I said, I don't care. I said, it's not that important. I said, it's not a good idea. And he goes, I'm going to do it. I said, okay, but don't expect anything. Okay. So he goes over there and he got 3 feet away from him. And David turned and he started to say to him while he's yelling at his girlfriend, right? He started to say to David, "Hi, Mr. Wilcock, I'd love for you to be on my radio show." And by the time he got that out, David is spun around. He's now yelling at this kid and he's going, "Who in the hell do you think you are asking me to be on your radio show? You're nobody." He says this so loud, the whole, all the vendors could hear it in the
Are you
room.
effing kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. This is absolute truth, man. Absolute truth.
Jackass.
And my friend was so hurt and so humiliated. He just kind of backed away, came back to the table, and I've never seen anybody cry. He had tears in his eyes. And you know what?
Yo,
What had
that
just
kid needs
happened
to
to
toughen
him.
it up. You can't let David Wilcock make you cry.
No, no,
Hey,
he knows
listen.
better now. But
Yeah,
at
yeah.
that time, he was brand new into this and he thought everybody was nice. And I said to him in that moment, I said, you just got the biggest lesson of your life. Most of these guys are a-holes and you need to understand that.
What a
And,
jackass.
that was his big awakening moment. We've all had it. I had it when I did the Super Soldier conferences. I
Right.
realized that I forgot to tell you, Duncan O'Finian put on a conference in Sacramento the same weekend as mine and told me he was going to come down and kill me.
Well, Duncan O'Finian, he's the guy. What do you think about and we got to end up soon because I realized, girlfriend, we've been on like for 4 hours. I'm not even kidding.
What?
Well, no,
Really?
because we started. Well, no, like at least three because we like three and a change because we started like 9:20, 9:30.
Jesus,
And
I have no idea. I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all right. It's been very entertaining. We've been up, we've been down. There's been scary stories. There's been happy stories. Duncan, what do you think about the Duncan of? Remember, there was that young man. Speaking of super soldiers, there was a young man. I think his name was Neil. Oh,
Okay.
snap! What do you have any thoughts on former White Hat?
Oh, former White Hat. Oh my God. Well, we all know it was Michael Hemmingson, right?
Yeah. Do you think Michael Hemmingson's really dead?
I think he is dead. And
I don't. I
you
don't think
don't?
he's.
Do you think he's alive?
I think he's alive and well and living in South America with his
I
little
hope so.
child. His little
I
daughter's
hope
with him.
so. I hope so. That I pray because Michael Hemmingson was a friend of mine. I still have all of the transcripts of our Skype chats. He was at that conference at the Henderson Hotel. Yeah, Michael Hemmingson was really interesting guy. And I
Right.
pray to God he's alive. I really do.
Oh, he's alive. I mean, he posts cryptic videos on YouTube. They're cryptic messages to Carrie Cassidy.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Well, you'll have to turn me on to him, and
I
then
gotta figure out where the links are. It's been a while since if people don't know, there was a guy called Michael
right,
Hemmingsworth and
Hemmingson.
And he was a
Yeah.
very interesting character. He wrote for a small California local paper, and he had a radio show, an internet radio show on the same channel that Carrie Cassidy had, and he was friends with Carrie Cassidy.
And I was on that network too. I'm the one who brought him. No, I didn't bring Michael. Did I bring Michael? I don't remember. I brought a whole bunch of people over to that network in the beginning of it. Okay, but go ahead.
Right. So what ended up happening was the following. So he ended up getting a very nasty reputation because he used to have this satirical WordPress blog where he would make fun of the various super soldiers and contactees that would appear on Carrie Cassidy's program. And it became a controversy because people realized that Carrie Cassidy was friends with Michael Hemmingsworth. And the attitude was, how could Carrie Cassidy tell these beautiful people like Duncan O'Finian, et cetera, you could come over here and then expose them to Michael Hemmingsworth or have him cover her show or her shift and then sometimes cover his. So it was considered like a big revelation that these two guys were tight when everyone was considering him to be a kind of an emotional terrorist because he was doing this WordPress blog
where he was basically funny.
Yeah, he was basically like doing kind of like an Omni Eros kind of CW Chanter thing of just pointing out how ridiculous it is that these people who don't look like they've been to the gym ever are claiming to tell these stories about being like Rambo-sized super soldiers, built to kill. Yep. So anyway, but then where it gets really mysterious is that at a later point in time, and he was famous because he would also go down to Tijuana a lot, and he would write
condo.
Yeah, and he would write a blog basically about his sexcapades down there, about reviewing the various sex shows, and
he was a soft pornography novel writer, and he also was a polygamist. He had a girlfriend in San Diego, and he had his wife down there with their kid in Mexico.
Right,
and I know all about Michael. Yeah,
right, and then Michael also used to write some of his softcore pornography would feature stories that were kind of lifted from the tales. There'd be super soldiers, there'd be Illuminati underground sex dungeons and all this stuff, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Here's something mysterious that happens, and here's the real mystery. This is where it gets really interesting. Michael gets a girl pregnant, gets his wife pregnant, but has got a real problem with her. He doesn't think that she's a former stripper, and I think he thinks that she's on drugs and she's doing all sorts of weird things. So anyway, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he kidnaps the kid and goes down to South America. But then all of a sudden, an obituary post appears in one place and in one place only, and that is the newspaper where he used to work. Okay, that's the only place it's mentioned that he's passed away. A small obituary in this local California paper. No announcement of a funeral, no announcement of anything like that, just an obituary. Okay. Slightly there, like a couple of years later, there's a video appears on YouTube that features in the background that song that Carrie Cassidy recorded, Jaguar.
Oh yeah, Jaguar. Yeah.
Moving through the forest, Jaguar. You want to talk about softcore pornography? Is that the nastiest song you've ever heard? Like, it totally sounds like it should belong in some soundtrack, right?
I know. Carrie really was trying to be a star at the time.
Sure, she was. And there's a white hand. There's a white hand that's in the video. Then it's holding a stuffed animal jaguar, and the jaguar is moving along to the song. And all of a sudden, the jaguar goes up, and there's a little Latin girl, a little Latino girl. And he goes, blah, blah, he plays with it in front of her. She goes, ah, she like starts laughing at him. And that's the end of the video. And that to me was a clear communication from Michael to the rest of the world. Don't worry, I got the kid. The
Oh,
wife was a drug addict. I escaped with her. We're okay. We're alive and well. We're living in Sao Paulo or wherever the heck they are.
God, I hope so. I really do. I really
Don't no.
do.
He's. I mean, there's just. I mean, we'll have to find it somewhere. But it's just
Okay.
great.
But
And there
we
was like
need,
a couple of them too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot more behind the scenes on that that I won't talk about on air, nor will I usually talk about it with anybody. But I will tell you off the air, and
Yes, you will.
you will not tell anybody after I tell you.
Not a
You guys are gonna
problem. Not a
love
problem.
that. You're gonna hate me for it, but I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I love Michael Hemmingson. You know what? He never came after me on that blog.
You were
He
the
did
only
mention me.
one. You were the
I
only
know.
one.
You know
I mean, he
why?
was merciless.
I know. And you know why?
Oh, why?
Because I told him exactly why I was doing things. I said, I'm looking for the truth. I'm looking for the bigger picture. And I said, please, I'm not your enemy here. And you know what? We became solid friends after that. And I said, oh my God, you got the funniest thing up there today about so and so, whatever. He goes, yeah, you're just lucky you're my friend. I haven't done one on you yet. I always laugh. I go, you'd never do that. He goes, no, I wouldn't. You know why? Because you're the only honest one in the group, you know?
So so check this out. Who was there was a young man that was involved in that scene. I think his name was Neil.
Okay, I don't know who that was. I'm trying to remember because I was there for all of it,
Do
sadly.
you know Do you know Randy Moggins?
I do know Randy. Randy hated me at the time.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay. Uh Also, who's Billy Mummy?
I don't know. I don't know.
Breach, you sent me up. Anyway, there you go. So when it came to there was a young man that was writing a blog and he was trying to figure out who former White Hat was. And he was doing all these things like looking at the IP addresses, and he's the guy that busted out the fact that it was Michael Hemingway
Emerson.
worth or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. So in response to that, shortly thereafter, this young man ends up committing suicide. Okay.
Neil up in Oregon.
Neil.
I know who this was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I know about that. Yes.
And
Okay,
then
I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, go ahead.
and it was a tragic suicide that he had freaked out or whatever, that he had destroyed his apartment and committed suicide. And then what ended up happening, and this is where it gets kind of weird and nasty, all of a sudden Duncan O'Finian starts telling people that he was the guy that got activated to go down and kill Neil.
I know. I know about that. Yeah.
That's why when I
Actually,
like, no offense, I know that Duncan O'Finian appears on videos now where he's this like soft spoken old man. It's all like and I'm like,
no,
what?
Duncan's out of his freaking mind, man.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you something. I'd had him checked out more than anybody I ever had checked out. And as far as I can tell, he's the real deal. I mean, he was messed with in the military. And I think
Mess.
yeah, they were messing with this guy big time. And I don't know why, what, when, where, or how. I don't want to know. But all the people I talked to, they all confirmed it because they all did research into him too. I mean, I talked to a whole lot of people about
Moomy.
him.
Who's Billy Moomy? Is there a Billy Moomy? Breach 123. If you set me up.
No, I don't. Is it Bridget that's asking you this?
No, it's Breach 123.
I don't
Moomy,
know. I
not
wish I could
Mummy.
help him.
Someone's messing with me. I don't know. They're teasing me. Sometimes this happens. So, what do you think of that whole story? I mean, that's a pretty low story to work your way into. Like,
You
no
know, to be
offense, like
honest
Duncan
with
O'Finian. Like, no offense. I don't think that dude. That if he's got a former military record, that's fine. This dude is not a super soldier. How the
well,
how am I
I
going to believe that a
you know,
guy
how
that
do you
looks like
define super soldier? See, here's my take on this
I,
is
I define super soldier as a certified badass, like an army range, like something better
yeah,
than an army
okay.
ranger
I
or
agree.
better than a Navy SEAL. You ever see a Navy SEAL at like 50 years out of service? They're still ripped as they're jacked as all
That's
get
right,
out.
because they're running every day.
They're
These guys never stop
running,
training.
and what does Duncan O'Finian look like? No offense.
I know. Just tell me about it. I know.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this, somebody messed with that guy really bad in the service. I don't know what they did to him, but they did. There are there's a lot of stuff about Duncan that's out there. What are they telling you now?
No, because at AlienCon 2016, in addition to the ancient alien people, they also had the sci-fi people. So apparently, Billy Mummy was the kid from
Oh
Lost in
yeah, he
Space.
was. Yeah, he
Oh,
was. Yeah. That's right. He was there.
so
Yeah.
you do remember who was at AlienCon
I
2016?
might, but that's
Oh,
I'm telling you, CW, you're not getting it out of
the
me.
only people from Ancient Aliens that were there were that Shostak dude, Tukulos, and friggin' Childress and William
No,
Madden. Oh,
there were
oh
more
no,
people there.
like
Yeah, there
hell,
were more.
like
They just
hell.
weren't put up on the website.
Uh-huh.
That's all I'm saying. There were more because
What
they
if I
weren't
were
put
to
up
do
on the
this? Okay,
website.
so check this out. You might listen. I know that you were currently shocked into silence, and I'm going to start saying the alphabet. And maybe, just
It's not
maybe,
going to help.
maybe, just maybe, at some point, you'll feel the need to spontaneously utter something.
No, I'm
Okay,
not
okay.
going to.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. How about Q? R, S, T, U, V, W, X.
I'm chewing my chicken. I have chicken dinner in front of me.
X.
That's
X. So we gotta look for an X. Did I miss and as I'm doing the alphabet online, I immediately thought to myself, this is the pressure of life. I immediately think to myself, CW, do not screw up the alphabet.
Well, I'm chewing my chicken dinner, so I thought I'll chew dinner while you're doing that, and I realize you're taking that as me stopping you in the alphabet. So
Yeah.
I forgot to mute.
Oh, that's what happened at X.
Absolutely, because now I'm trying to swallow it.
At X.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I wasn't going to make a sound at all during this whole thing.
And yet you did.
Oh, I accidentally chewed on the chicken. I have orange chicken. It's really wonderful.
There you go. Orange chicken. So maybe it's a no. Anyway, just joking. So anyway, that was like a crazy story. Like, so like, you know what I mean? That Duncan whatever, Duncan O'Finian.
Well, let me tell you something about Duncan O'Finian. I'm telling you, folks.
It's already 1 o'clock in the morning. So let's make, is there anything that we have to talk about that we did? So we'll end on Duncan O'Finian.
Yeah, we'll end on him. I'm just going to say this. If Duncan O'Finian said that he was the man behind Neil's death, I wouldn't completely rule it out. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I would. First of all, what you say just implicated Duncan O'Finian in a murder. You won't tell us who killed the puppy, but you're going to implicate Duncan O'Finian in a murder?
Yeah, I would do that. I'll tell you why. Because I've known a couple of...
You'll double down? You'll tell us why? Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because I know of a few people that are in the community that have done some really horrendous things. And to make it look like they didn't do it, they come out and threaten people and say they killed them or they did this or they did that when they actually did. So just be aware that that is a psyops. And I have talked to people about it, so I'm not convinced.
Yeah, what was that story that Duncan O'Finian got shot at a health center that he worked at?
He did. He got shot like 3 or 4 times, and he lived through it.
What happened? What actually happened? Do we have like confirmation that he got shot?
Oh yeah, absolutely got shot there. I think they even have video footage of it at the security cameras.
Why'd they shoot him?
Oh, his friend was mad at him and shot him 4 times and tried to kill him.
Is the friend going away for attempted murder?
Yeah, the friend's gone to jail for attempted murder and yeah, whatever. I can't even remember the whole story, but when I heard it from my other buddy,
Life in Pahrump, right?
Yeah, I said, why didn't he just, can he just die? I mean, for being shot 4 times, he had to live through it,
I guess there's no love lost between you and Duncan O'Finian.
No, not at all. I mean, the guy really, He really caused me a lot of problems in the day, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't be so mean to him, but I actually feel sorry for him because when you're that messed up and you think you've got to be at the top of the heap all the time, you'll do anything to get there. And I just feel
It's
bad
been
for
a
him.
while. It's been a while since I've heard from him.
I know. Well, ever since he got shot, he's been laying low. I think he
Well,
finally realized.
I guess that'll do it to you, right?
Yeah, you got to be shot before he'll shut up,
He's like
right?
Travis Walton, right? He's seen the freaking light. You know what I mean? There's something about being shot 3 or 4 times that makes me think I'm going to shut my mouth about the wonderment of being a super soldier.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. These
Uh,
guys are they're very interesting creatures, and I do care about most of them a lot. Casbolt can rot in prison for all I care, and then sadly he's getting out soon.
Yeah, well, look, you can only go away for so long. It's been years already.
I know.
We forget how long things go by. I mean, my attitude about Casbolt is that he's a child. Like when he's doing that last video with Miles Johnson, and Miles Johnson is asking him about things, and he's saying like he's got like all this like laser, like he's like a little kid saying like, "Oh, my forearm, I've got like this retractable laser gun that comes out." And I've
I
got
heard
super
something about this. Yeah,
yeah.
I stopped following him. Like I said earlier in the show, one of the reasons he is in prison is because of the way he treated me too. So,
Okay.
I have no problem with him rotting away for a very long time. And I'm even madder at Miles because Miles basically let him go to England, get on a podium, and tell the world I'm the most evil woman on the planet. And he didn't edit it out of his freaking videos or whatever. I said, you give this crazy man a podium, and then you take my name and you expect me not to sue you, Miles? I mean, Miles is like, oh, doesn't mean anything. I said, yeah, it does. It's my name. He's using it.
What other people we got a consistent request from the live chat? Bill Grant. Do you know Bill Grant?
I know Bill Grant. I think Bill Grant is an okay guy. Yeah, he's fine. I have no problems with Bill. What did he do?
I don't know. What did he do?
I don't know. I see Bill at the conferences. He talks about free energy. He seems like a very nice man. I've known him for a while. He pipes in on my show on Monday afternoons at 5 o'clock, and he makes comments here and there about different people that he's met, that I have on my show. Like, behind the scenes, he'll say, oh, yeah, ask him about the time we were at so and so about this free energy device or, something like that. Now, I've never had a problem with Bill. What did he do?
Nothing. I think people are just making requests. So here I could get. There you go. Oh yeah, people are coming in late, so they got questions. Let's do this. What we'll do is let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up because people are asking me to take care of some housekeeping issues before we end the transmission. So people with wrenches, moderators, thank you so much for your service. Here's what we're trying to do. Because the channel is now monetized, not only do I have to watch my mouth, which I don't do a great job of, that happens. The live chat also has to be kind of moderated as well. So though it stinks on ice and it's not something that I'm comfortable with, we try to maintain, as DJ Nimbus has pointed out, a kind of PG-13 attitude. You could tease, you could talk, you could do this, but if you could be creative and not use explicitives and foul language, that's fantastic. If you see someone pop up, if you've got moderator status, if you see someone pops up who's consistently using foul language, if you hit on them, it's going to give you an option to hold that message for review or to delete that message. And if it contains an actual expletive, like one of George Carlin's famous 7 dirty words, I recommend that you just delete it because the person will learn, and then you can even just give them a quick message afterwards. Sorry about that. We're just trying to watch the language, and they'll probably figure that out. The only thing beyond that is really that we try to really frown upon is overt racism. If someone is using racial slurs or saying a ton of stuff about, it's one thing to talk about the Mossad. It's one thing to talk about the state of Israel. But if someone is going on about blacks or Jews or this or that, my tendency is to time them out. And you can when you hit their name, it'll give you an option to time them out for a period of time. If you so desire, you can give them a warning. and there's a couple of guys that have been doing it for a long, long time. So if you just got a wrench tonight and you know that comfortable with it, you don't need to worry about it because there's some hardcore people out there. You just might find yourself in a position if you're one of the first or second people to join the chat, and you see that you're one of the only moderators or wrenches out there. You could feel free to get a little bit more involved, but there's no pressure. I mean, if you've got a wrench, it really means you can take those actions like we described, and it also means that you could post URLs and you could post links to websites that other people who are not moderators can't do. So if you ever feel like you don't want to take the lead on anything, don't worry about it because chances are there's going to be another moderator around who's going to be a really hardcore people. Reemsey's been around the bench, around the world more times than me. DJ Nimbus and Brandon Young and Robert Elder are really good at doing the moderator thing. So never feel any pressure like you have to get involved or do things, but it's like that. So no worries. I think that's only housekeeping we need to worry about. And then I'll just, I think that's the only housekeeping we need to worry about. Also, I've made a decision. I will be doing I don't like to do this, but people have been very nice to me on Patreon. I have a Patreon link in the description box below. If you could support me on Patreon for any amount, that's greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. I spend more and more time doing this stuff, and it takes time out of my day, it takes time out of my life, it takes time out of my family time. So if you could contribute and help support, it really does mean a lot to me. And as a bonus for Patreon supporters, I'll be doing a Patreon video this weekend. I'll be doing a music video. People know that I do the ambient music thing, and I haven't done it for a while. Some of my greatest Patreon supporters, like Reemsey and Jet Pet 1000, are big fans of the music, and they've been getting requests for music off it. So I will be doing a CW Chanter music show, but it's going to be a Patreon exclusive, at least for the foreseeable future, just to give something back to the people that gave something to me. So look for that, Patreon supporters, this weekend. Sometime by the end of Sunday, you will be getting a music video. And with those housekeeping issues out of the way, I will turn to my lovely guest, Lorien Fenton, and thank you so much for your time. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry I didn't give you your
Why?
puppy stuff. I'm so sorry.
That's okay because you're going to tell me when we get offline. No, you're not.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
you're
a
not. I know you're not. You're not, but you are. But you're not. I know. Don't worry. And nobody asked me about it because I won't say it's.
I love it. You're so cute. You just crack
Jonathan
me
Young,
up.
a guy that's been on the ancient alien scene for a while that we haven't spoken to about. I don't know if you got any stories about him, or maybe you could just tell us how you feel about him.
I'm
Jonathan
trying to
Young.
remember what he looks like. Is he that good-looking guy that's got kind of reddish hair, kind of pale?
No, he's an older gentleman. He does same with the Joseph Campbell. He's got like a Joseph Campbell Institute or something. He's a
I don't know
psychologist.
anything about him. I've never hung out with him. I'm sorry to say. I wish I had.
Oh,
No,
okay.
never hung with him. If you ask me about
Oh,
any
oh, oh, oh. Dave Corso.
Oh, Dave. Okay, now a lot of people hated Dave Corso, and I wasn't sure about Dave for a very long time. He was the man in the van during the Jesse Ventura days. Do you guys remember the conspiracy theory? Dave Corso. Was that the Dave Corso we're talking about, right?
I assume. Unless there's another Dave Corso.
Yeah, well, there's another Corso in the UFO community, but I don't think it's him. Okay, I'm pretty sure we're talking about Dave Corso. Okay, Dave, if it wasn't for Dave Corso bringing Duncan O'Finian out as the real deal, then I'd wonder. I always question Dave about Duncan, like, this guy can't be for real. How do you, support this guy? Blah, 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 blah. Is he a CIA op? Why are you handling him? Blah, blah. I mean, I gave Dave the ringer. Dave and I went around and around for years. And finally, before he died, I actually had a very nice conversation with him. And he said to me, Lauren, he goes, as far as Duncan goes, I think he's the real deal. As a matter of fact, he said, I know he's the real deal, but it's not what you think. And I said, well, what does that mean? And he says, well, we call him a super soldier, but I think it went deeper than that. I think it had a lot more to do with what the government was trying to create at the time. And I said, like super soldiers, right? And he goes, well, yeah, but it didn't work out that way. And I go, are you going to explain this to me? And he goes, probably not. And I said, okay. So we moved on to another subject, but
Is
I
this
never,
did
yeah,
Dave Corso start Wolf Spirit Radio?
yes, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's Dave Corso. And Dave would never give me a straight answer about any of that. All he said was, Lorien, you're dealing with the real deal here with Duncan. And I said, how many other real deals are there out there at the time? He goes, I know of 4, only 4. And I said, and did you train them? And he always said, I can't tell you anything about that. And so, David had his secrets too.
Yeah,
And
who's gonna
I mean,
vet
he might have
Dave
been playing.
Corso?
Yeah, he might have been playing me. I don't know. But I think that Dave actually had nuggets of truth. I really do.
Is he no longer with us?
No, he died of cancer several years back.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know he had cancer in that last conversation we had because I was still kind of reaming him, giving him a
God,
bad
I feel
time.
bad. Yeah, there you go.
I know. I felt like, oh God. Then he goes and dies. I'm like, oh shoot, I kept giving him a
Jeez,
bad
you got
time.
that on you.
Yeah. But you know
Great.
what? He was always he did give me some great advice. He told me a lot about some of what he went through when he was younger with the programs he was involved with the military that he couldn't tell me about, but he just said they're definitely real. And there's one other character involved in all this that I never bring up on radio that I'll tell you about off air. Okay.
Okay.
But yeah.
One last thing we
Anyhow.
go. Any funny stories about do you know Brandon Young?
No, but people keep asking me if I know him, and I don't. I'm sorry. Is he new on
Okay.
the scene or
I don't know. He's like
older?
this douchebag. I don't know. Sometimes he's one of these like young bucks whose name gets thrown around all the time. It's one of those names that keeps on coming up. I think I don't. You want to talk about people I don't think is for real, not a legit super soldier. Brandon Young. So
Okay,
if you
I'll go
ever
check
see,
him out.
go
Find
check
out.
out Brandon Young.
Yeah,
Look in the archives.
yeah, the super soldier thing has left my purview. I'm really into the mind control aspect of all of this and what I think nefarious agencies are doing to us on a social level through social media and through a lot of other means. So that's where I've headed with all
There you go.
this.
But anyway, it's after 1 o'clock in the morning. We're on that, so we are definitely coming up on hour 4. So we gotta go ahead and shut this bad boy down. So what I'm gonna say is, while you're hanging out here, I'm gonna say thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending this time with us. It's always very, very entertaining, and I know you always win a whole bunch of new fans when you come on. I've put your radio stuff down in the link below in the description box below, so people can find you. And thank you everyone to tuned into the live chat and participated. Thank you to 133 viewers. You must be famous, girl.
I am. I got 133 people that love me.
There you go. There you go. Well, you must have more than that. You must have more than that. And you certainly, talking about people that love you, you certainly got a friend in me. Okay.
Oh, well,
Sure.
I adore you.
There you
That.
go.
You're the only
It's a two-way
YouTuber I
street.
watch. I swear to God, it's too funny.
And and consider they oftentimes make 4-hour videos with guests like Lorien Fenton. You'd have to, you know what I mean? Who's got time for any other YouTube videos, right?
I know. Well, that's true, but I love it. I just adore it, and I got always check in to see what CW's up to.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So listen, it's so funny because I'm going, like, I know when it's too late that I know that I got to go to bed, and then sometimes I'll turn over and God bless him. There's people in the live chat going, I've got work in the morning. This guy just will not shut up. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Well, good night, everybody. Thank you for listening to me.
Absolutely. So thank you to my guests, and thank you so much for the people that tuned in for the long form broadcast. You definitely were entertained. There's no way that you weren't. And I got to tell you, this is one of those ones that I know that people might want to watch from start to finish, because the stories, the adventures, the happiness, the sadness, the puppy gate, we're going to get to I'm going to break you, girl. If I have to contact the CIA handlers and get them to kidnap you and get in the U-Haul. Okay? I'm gonna be like Patrick Stewart. You're gonna be like Mel Gibson in the chair. We're gonna tape your eyes open. We're gonna, you know what I mean?
That's my favorite movie. I swear to God, I love that movie.
And we know they're messing with your mind. If Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson is your favorite movie,
he
girlfriend,
makes me laugh. That whole thing makes me laugh. I just go, "Oh my God, how could anybody
oh
love
my
this?"
God, you sick twist. Lorien Fenton is like, here's the truth about the darkness of Lorien Fenton. She
Yeah,
thinks
no, it's
conspiracy
true.
theory with Mel
Conspiracy
Gibson
theories.
is a comedy.
I use it in my opening for my show.
Oh
Oh
my
God.
God. Talk about you ever see that comedy? Oh, this makes me laugh. Conspiracy theory. Oh my God. Oh, it's like that hysterical movie I used to watch all the time when I was a kid. Psycho. I love it.
Oh God. Oh God. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I have a sick sense of humor, you
You're
guys.
not sorry. You're not sorry.
But
You know
you
you're
know
not
what?
sorry.
I earned being able to laugh at people like that.
Yeah.
Trust me.
There you go. Anyway, we love you. 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 If no one told you that they loved you today, somebody just did. Okay. Take care of yourselves, folks. We're going to close down the old broadcast, and we'll bid you fond adieu. Bye bye, guys. Love you.